Hello everybody, we're back with more of the Nen Show Podcast. It's Boruto Part 2, coming back to that. Yeah, hi, it's Craftsdwarf with my co-host Mathwiz. Hello Mathwiz, say hello Mathwiz.
You know, going from One Piece to reading this, even though Boruto's a monthly manga, it really did feel like Rock Lee dropping the weights of like, oh my god, I can read manga at a normal pace.
That's a comparison. Because One Piece is just so dense, but yeah, I didn't even think about the comparison of just how Boruto is just, because I did notice that the chapters just kind of flew by, like, wow, I read a volume already, damn. Because they're double length chapters, yet they're still like just zoom by, and that was nice. I didn't think about that. That's good.
Yeah, it just really is the difference of like some manga really like cram in like a lot of dialogue or a lot of panels on an individual page, and then some it's kind of just like dialogue bubble here, action thing here. Okay, that's the gist of it.
Right. So overall, I did see your tweet, but what were your thoughts on the reading?
The tweet that I put out for anyone who doesn't use Twitter, I basically just said that Boruto has no business being this good, because this is a pretty good arc. And I remember when we did the last discussion, although it was like 3 years ago almost at this point.
Oh God, was it?
Yeah, I think it was 2020.
Oh Jesus!
Because it was like right after. Was it before Soul Eater or was it after Soul Eater? I think.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I don't remember exactly, but okay.
And I didn't really have the time to look back at that old discussion because when I initially was getting into this reading, I was kind of hitting the problem again, like I had with One Piece, where it's like, oh God, what was happening? Like I vaguely remember like ninja tools and the guy from the previous series was an antagonist, but then like slowly piecing it together again over the course of the reading. And I also feel like because it's been, about that long, I felt like I was having the same observations kind of fresh again. Like, oh, I don't like the manga art. The character designs just all look worse than what I remember in the anime. At least for the characters I had seen in the anime. But like, story-wise, it's like, oh yeah, no, this still has a lot of like really solid theming and, especially this arc in particular, kind of like doing the whole like Naruto parallel thing that the original series did, but
yes.
But they're also kind of being like a new spin on it. And really just, I feel like we get a lot of like good adult Naruto content of like, this is what he is like as the Hokage, and this is how he tries to take care of everyone. And it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, see, so I still like this arc, but my problem with it is that even though I would have watched it like probably like 2 years ago, when I caught up to the anime and went through this material. So like I like this, like this is my favorite arc in the anime, but reading it in the manga, where it is a form I just prefer less. Yeah. Like it's information and stuff that I already like knew, and with I didn't dislike the art. Like I remember, like I don't like it as much as the anime for sure, but I remember reading it and thinking like, this doesn't look as bad as I remember. In that like I guess the art's improved over the first arc a bit, I guess. And then, but the other problem with that is that, like, I don't want this discussion to be like, oh yeah, this part in the manga was good, but in the anime, it added, like, all this cool shit.
Yeah. Because I'm sure the anime, with this being, like, even more so than I would imagine Naruto, which kind of started as a manga, but, all anime to some extent kind of have, like, a media mix thing going on. But this one is probably more like, the anime started first, but has its own thing going on and then would adapt the manga content later and presumably like have extra context going into it or build onto it as it's adapting it. So I can imagine the anime kind of adding more here.
Well, even more than that, because it also added a bunch of stuff with Naruto, and I haven't seen Shabes' Naruto videos, but I know he watched all of the Naruto anime and at least has some discussion on the anime as its own thing and as an adaptation of Naruto. Yeah. Where with Boruto, the anime is a sequel to the anime of Naruto. So there's references to anime original stuff, like there was the Blood Prison movie or something, and that's the setting of an arc that leads into the Mujina Bandits arc. Or it's in the anime, they're the same arc. But and then there's like a character in the Wave Country arc who she's the daughter of someone in an anime original arc who was like one of the, well, he's technically in the manga. No, wait, or am I thinking of a different? Yeah, I think he was one of the seven swordsmen of the mist, and he's literally like there in one panel of the manga, even though like, yeah, but he's an anime original character basically. So like there's stuff in the anime that you'd only, and there's also like Kakashi disguising himself as like a reporter or something, and that I saw in Boruto, but that was apparently there were some anime episodes that did that too with the same disguise. So the Boruto anime is a sequel to the Naruto anime, which is something that I didn't necessarily know because I have not seen the Naruto anime in full ever. But yeah, but my restriction for myself, because I do want to talk about the anime a little bit, but what I'm going to try and do is like, because I did not go through my notes again. I watched like one scene probably like 3 times, the one Mathwiz, because I linked it to you. But I did not go out of my way to like refresh myself on what the anime did, because like I still have some points that I want to say, but I don't want it to consume my contribution to this discussion, just because like, I like the anime, but it's not a kind of discussion like you can add to, where it's like, wow, that sounds cool. I haven't watched the anime. I'm not going to watch 300 episodes of Boruto so I can have talk about this one arc, so.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of remember vaguely from the last discussion kind of having the takeaway of like the manga kind of seems like it's sort of kind of like a bullet points version, where it's like it hits on some of the stuff that, especially because in like the previous thing, one of them was the tuning exams arc, which happened, that was like the 3rd time it was being adapted, because it was the film and then the anime and then the manga, or maybe not quite in that order. Maybe the manga happened first, but still, I don't remember
the order. But yeah, but it has been adapted 3 times, right?
But then like
times, yeah.
This I kind of had some feelings like introducing more of these like newer characters, and just some of the character designs and stuff. I feel like they better fit. I'm gonna get them confused if it's Ikemoto or the other one. I think Ikemoto is the one who's like mainly doing it, but had assistance from the other guy whose name is failing me. But it kind of felt like, one thing I noticed about the character designs, because like when I had the basis of comparison for the anime version of the designs, for like the family and like some of the other major characters, I definitely prefer the anime's designs. But when it comes to like, because I haven't seen that far into the Boruto anime, but I did look up some like, images online of like, what does why can I not remember his character? What does Kawaki look like in the anime? What does Jigen look like in the anime? And definitely seeming to get the impression that like, okay, these were definitely characters who were designed with the manga first in mind, and so in that way maybe they don't fully translate in the same way to animation, which I thought was interesting. Not that I'm saying that like the anime designs look bad. It's just there's definitely less of that disconnect that I feel with some of the manga character designs. Yeah.
No, because the manga would have come out first in this, because like I think the Kawaki arc was still ongoing, or this arc which I think I'm calling it Isshiki's vessel arc, which because it's it means the same thing. Kawaki is Isshiki's vessel. It just sounds cooler.
Yeah.
But so like this arc was ongoing when we caught up to Boruto, or did the last Boruto reading, which is why we didn't do this one. But it in the anime didn't. I don't think it adapted it until after the arc was done. So I'd have to double check that. Like maybe like the end of the arc was going at the beginning of when the anime started, but even then, because it took a while for the manga to come out, and just so for it to be, because obviously like, tuning exams happens in like the 40s to 50s, and the Ishiki's vessel stuff is like 180 to 200, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and of course,
huge gap
Boruto being like a monthly manga too, there's always like when you're
versus a weekly
when
anime,
you're when you're adapting a weekly manga series, it's like, okay, well, one chapter is not going to fill a full anime episode, but then this being monthly, it's like, okay, well, there's even more time in between that. And also I imagine this was the arc that was ongoing around the time that the pandemic hit, so I don't know if there were any delays in releases or anything like that.
I don't even remember, because I forget exactly when I caught up to Boruto. Because I'm pretty sure when I caught up, it was I think I caught up, and like literally right after I caught up, there was a new episode, like 216 or something like that. So I was like, I'm caught up. Okay, I'm not caught up. I'm caught up again. So that would but I think that was well into 2020, if not later, because I need to double check when I caught up exactly. But so yeah, I wouldn't have noticed any issues with the COVID delays or anything. So because it did affect quite a few areas.
Wrong.
I don't know. I mean, it also hit some production things recently, because like if you go to my anime list, like the Boruto anime is listed as complete,
and there's a Boruto part 2 that is announced but doesn't have a confirmed date yet.
Right, and from what I understand about that is, well, because for one, they literally just stopped part way. Like the episode that they ended on does feel like slightly like final in a sense, like they definitely were aware of the stopping of the show, but it's also like literally like 5 episodes into the manga arc that there's way more content to adapt. Like there's no way they're caught up to the manga. So yeah, I don't know what I feel like I heard COVID delays. Maybe there's some other issues going on that I don't remember or misunderstood. So I don't know what the deal is.
My assumption was kind of just, the anime industry collapsing in on itself, and so
that
these
could
sorts
very
of
well be
ongoing, never-ending types of anime or adaptations just kind of aren't really the format anymore. It seems like they're kind of like a much more getting phased out in favor of like the seasonal approach, which has its own pros and cons.
Right. No, you're right. The long-running forever anime are definitely much less common than they used to be, but they're still around. So
I mean, One Piece is probably like too big of a juggernaut to really be affected at this point. I mean, not that it wouldn't be affected like production wise, but just in terms of like I would be shocked if they stopped the One Piece anime and went the seasonal approach, because it's been like 25 years almost.
Right? Yeah, I know. I definitely, for sure. And Toei in general, like, they had some delays with like Precure, but they're still going. We still got Precure and One Piece coming out, so anyway.
I guess before we get too into this, was this the episode where we announced the patron pick?
Fuck! I forgot about that. I was just looking to talk about Boruto. So, yes, the patron poll was decided. We are reading Toriko. Luckily, I already had an arc listing prepared because I'd read the series before, and I think at one point, for series that maybe I just, knew we were going to read, or in one case that I was reading, and just thinking about what if we talk about this on the Nen Show, I just prepared a couple of arc listings just for if we would need them, and so I already have the episodes divided up. It's only going to be 7 episodes. I don't know how the discussion is going to go, obviously. It's not a series that I just assume, like, Mathwiz is going to love this. Like, if anything, it's going to be more of a Kinnikuman deal. Hopefully not that negative. Like, in fact, I don't think it, I don't know. It depends on what happens. So,
if anything, least, my misgivings going in is like, oh, the author's not great. So, I mean, are the patrons going to suggest Rurouni Kenshin next? Or are we just going to knock these out right away?
Then we'll do Octa. It's just, that's not even an action series, but fuck it, we got to get the fucking problematic Jump trilogy out of the goddamn way. But yeah, so anyway, we're reading Toriko. That's it. I don't have anything to say. I mean, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to going back to it in the sense of like, I have it as a 5 out of 10 now, just because like my school, I was reading it weekly, and it definitely, and it wasn't like canceled, like it didn't just get cut off, but I definitely there's a point where Jump basically, I'm pretty sure, told him to end it, and so he had to just end the series as fast as possible, and you can tell when that happens, but we'll see how it goes or how I feel rereading it, because maybe it makes more sense than I remember, and that was just hearsay. It's been a long time. Okay. Like, when the fuck did Toriko finish? Like 2014? Something like that? Shit. Ages ago. But anyway, that's not important. I'm ready to talk about Boruto.
2014, ages ago. Don't say that.
So anyway, we get a little introduction scene to Jigen and Delta, sort of showing off, sort of explaining some of the things that are going on vaguely, and touching on some of their powers. So mostly, Delta strong and Jigen can just sort of fuck around with shit. Then we find Kawaki, who is he's got the karma.
Before we move on from this scene, I did realize that like how his powers are kind of foreshadowed when he just like, you know, materializes another table and all the food that was on it, and then it like shows that the, you know, the broken table is still there on the floor, but he just kind of made a new one, which, you know, at the time it's like, how did he do that? But getting more context on it later, it's like, oh, okay, that's what they were foreshadowing.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, there's something just, I don't know, like, the fact that this guy has a bunch of, like, mini tables and wine glasses in his pocket dimension, I don't know. Like, he's ready to fucking have dinner any time of the fucking day, okay? Like, I don't know why it just made me think of that. You know, he likes his fine food, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, we get to Kawaki and, the karma on his arm. We get a bit of a flashback showing sort of how Jigen bought him from his shithead dad, and it honestly wasn't even any better as a father, possibly worse.
I think one thing that kind of threw me from like an art perspective is that like I've gotten so used to when these
though I guess go on.
Well, like when these manga like do flashbacks, they kind of like, you know, the page goes like gray or black or something. But in this one, you can't, like, there's no visual indicator that it's a flashback. You just kind of pick up on it as it goes.
Yeah, aside from like obviously Kawaki's smaller, but also you just met this character like 3 pages ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what I was gonna say is sort of like, so this is the first thing I wanted to bring up about I think I can think of 3 things right now that I want to talk about the Boruto anime for, and this is the first one. Sort of like I kind of talked about it briefly before with how like the Mugen and Bandits arc in the anime is longer and includes a stretch leading into it with the Blood Prison. I think that's what it's called, right? That's the movie.
There's a Blood Prison movie.
Okay, I've not seen the movie, but I've watched that arc, so, and I did hear that
it's a movie.
Yeah, I wasn't really enthused about watching it. But anyway, so basically one thing, like how the anime adapts the material, like it doesn't just add stuff, but like it's also building to the rest of the story, even the stuff in the manga, and like both directly and indirectly, if that makes sense. Like, so with that one, you have the Mugen and Bandits sort of being built into directly plot-wise, but what I wanted to talk about is how we sort of get built into Kawaki, is because like he has a very clear difference with Boruto in that like Boruto has a good family and he's never wants for anything, like he's always playing video games or eating burgers or engaging in trading cards, and like remember earlier on there he was like, oh yeah, he's always got a new jacket because he just buys a new one, he's got all this money, right? He comes from a place of privilege. Kawaki very clearly doesn't. He's got he's a shithole dad. He's spending all his time like scrounging up money to buy his dad booze, and then he gets fucking taken in by Jigen, and it's not good either, right? So like Naruto saving the world and with the ninja and, you know, winning the ninja war, like there's even a line in the anime about how like the wage gap or the wealth gap has only increased. Like the rich people got richer after the war. You know, and we see that with Konoha where it is better off, but then here we see Kawaki who is not better off. And so what I wanted to point out is just like the anime builds to that by having other arcs exploring this angle of the series with the privilege thing. Like there's one with Shikadai, Shikamaru's son, where he like basically, because he comes from this kind of background, like, you know, he plays shogi with his dad and he'll just give up if it's not going well, because, you know, what's the point of, you know, he's like his dad, he's a little lazy, like what's the point of trying if you're just gonna lose? But then he meets a different kid who kind of like doesn't have that luxury, and impresses on him that like, well, okay, if I give up, everything's lost, basically. So like this bandit has to, and Shikadai like learns that lesson. So here's this arc that doesn't have anything to do with Kawaki or Kara or, you know, the Mugen bandits even. It's a completely different group of bandits, like, but it still has the, like, what it explores also builds into Kawaki in its own way, and sort of, which I wanted to just bring up as, because I think people like, oh, it's filler, it doesn't matter because it doesn't happen in the manga, but it's like, but it's still exploring the same setting and the same world and giving additions and context to other characters, like who's Shikadai in the manga, Shikamaru's son who just becomes a hostage, and it's like, you know, his character doesn't really make much of a difference, right? It could have just been Inojin or Chocho who could have been the hostage, and not much would have changed, except that Shikamaru is more important in the village, I guess, you know? So I just wanted to, like, you know, that's just one of the angles I was thinking of as far as, like, how the anime does its thing. But, you know, and so, like, so even, you know, I'm pretty sure, I feel like they expanded on his flashback a bit more, but I don't remember enough to talk about it. But it's still it establishes what Kawaki's deal is. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about like I'm sure it's not just anime fans, but obviously that's what I have more experience with, of this sort of like consumption mentality where it's like, oh, if it's not canon, it's not worth looking into, and looking up like the filler guides and whatnot, when it's like, well, if you don't watch the non-canon content, you don't know if it's worth watching or not, and some of it is,
right.
Which is also definitely like a point that I make in regards to like whenever I finally finish this shonen movie script, because obviously, like, you mentioned how Blood Prison kind of gets called back to, and it's like, yeah, it's non-canon, and I'm not necessarily even saying it's a good movie, but like, there are interesting, it very much applies to the movies as well, and I find that to just be like an interesting subject to look at.
Mm-hmm. No, even, and what you just reminded me of is like, as far as just the thing, like, so there's one arc in the Boruto anime I didn't care for, the Lemon arc, where there's a lady, and the arc kind of deals in sacrifice, but it still like fits what I was just talking to, because like what you would get later on is like there's discussion of like, Boruto, would you be willing to die for the village? Right? Like this idea of sacrifice coming up recurringly, and so that arc does the same thing, even if I don't care for it. But like, and then there's another arc that I was even thinking of, the Jugo arc, where it's like it takes the fucking most forgettable fucking character this side of Yamato in Naruto, and then like actually gives him something. It's still not an arc I love, but like it also factors into ideas that Boruto is touching on. Like there was another line in the manga I just remembered where Jigen's talking about how like your blood and your genes is, it's your fate and it's something you can't escape, basically, sort of, which is also a conflict relevant to Boruto himself, being the son of his father, or that's a little redundant to say, but words are hard. Right, so yeah, that's just more examples of like, even if there's stuff that I don't love in the Boruto anime, like it's still there for a purpose, and I'm not going to dismiss its purpose, even just because I don't like it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and also giving Jugo the best shit he's ever had is like, sure, I'll take it, even if it's still not amazing. Like, whatever, man. He's that's his name, right? The fucking guy who was in Sasuke's group, the fucking monster dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember who you were talking about, but that's right.
That's so funny. I'm sorry.
Like, yeah, I remember when we went through the original or when we did our original podcast on Naruto, it was sort of like, yeah, Hebi were some of the most memorable characters, huh? There was, is it Suigetsu is the other one?
Yes,
he's
Karin,
got
a meme.
Edgy shark teeth, which is cool, I guess.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I had a point and I forgot what it was. It'll come back to me.
No. Yeah, I just pointed out how Karin is kind of a meme in, like, with people who know me,
right.
I guess.
Yeah,
but,
what I was going to say was that, like, one thing I remember, like, kind of getting back into the manga and feeling it sort of similarly in this arc, that, I know that the anime gives more of a time to explore the other side characters, like the other Leaf Village squads,
Yes.
And in the manga, it's kind of like they're really, like, really downplayed into like the supporting roles and have very little to do. Like I imagine that also, because like going through the manga, it definitely kind of feels like, it's like I wish, not necessarily wishing that we could have more of these characters, because I know that the anime exists to provide that, but just sort of like, yeah, they don't really get a whole lot, and so I don't really know them as people in the same way. I need to get back to the Boruto anime. It's been years, and I only watched like the first 12.
If you have the mood in you for 200, like almost 300 of something, then it's really good. But I understand it not being an investment a lot of people want to make. And yeah, my stance on it is just like, for the manga, like I don't really bemoan it, because like you said, I do already have the anime. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, ugh, I need 5 volumes of Shikacho content because they're so good in the anime, and I think the manga should go as fast as possible, because it does have a slower release date. So the more it goes, then like that means the anime can also get to its like major content, because that's the thing. The manga is just like, it's a Cliff Notes version story that hits the hardest beats as hard as they can, basically. You know, and so the anime isn't that, and I'm not gonna bitch about the anime not being that, or the manga for being what it is, right? So
yeah, and I guess this kind of ties back to the point of like canon, like what is canon and what isn't, because like if you're just looking for the manga where it's like, yeah, okay, this is the real meat of the story, then it kind of skips over a lot of characters, or doesn't spend as much time on like fleshing out the arcs that it's telling. Like it's very much, it has the ideas it wants to do and it focuses on those. And, you know, if you're someone who's like, oh, you know, I'd want more Mitsuki content, or, you know, just any of the other characters, you know, because like, you know, I feel like the manga, from what I remember and going through this arc, you know, it's obviously going to focus on Boruto. Sarada usually has something to do. And then with, you know, the introduction of Kawaki in this arc, he seems like another big player. But, yeah, I remember just like not so much for Mitsuki. Maybe he got a little more to do in the Bandits arc that I just don't remember. But
well, didn't he get the solo one-off chapter with Orochimaru and I remember that episode. I feel like I read that chapter as well.
Yeah, that probably happened. You're probably right. Okay.
Gotcha. Well, because like even in this reading, there's just the part where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a clone," and Boruto and Sarada are like, "What?" Like it just drops it out of nowhere.
Yeah, whereas like I remember in the anime, he's kind of more like mysterious, and there's more of like a build to that reveal of him being Orochimaru's kid, and and yeah, him, you know, he also has like the dynamic of like being, is it Boruto is the son or he's the son? And something like that.
Right.
That just
I think Mitsuki's the moon, really... and Boruto's his son, who's reflecting on the, you know, giving the light to the moon, basically. Right. And yeah, and that's the other thing. It's just like I love Mitsuki, and anyone who's only read the manga would be like, why? So, you know, and yeah, he gets his own. I guess you can call it the Mitsuki retrieval arc that goes really into his like nature as this sort of artificial being in an arc that also has other artificial beings, if that makes sense. Like it's that's my second favorite arc, honestly, in Boruto, by the way, and it's not even like canon, quote unquote, so it's like whatever. But yeah,
I'm like, what was that you said right before we started recording, that this probably wouldn't be a long discussion?
We're half an hour in and we haven't even finished the first chapter. In fairness, we've barely talked about the mangas, so, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, Kawaki wakes up. He is freaking out a little bit.
Does a fucking Dragon Ball explosion where, like, he has, like, a aura of power around him, and then he's in a crater. See, like, if there is one... You know, I'm not going to say Boruto is perfect. Even if I like what it's doing, you know, the ideas it's exploring and the way it kind of builds on some of the theming in Naruto, while also very much doing its own thing with like ninjas versus tools, and you know, are ninjas tools, but like using the, you know, that kind of being a thing that's explored. They're definitely I think in terms of like the way the story is conveyed, sometimes like certain maybe it's just from like a visual perspective, or like certain character, or like certain powers or something, where I'm sort of like, all right, you know, this is like, but it's kind of just the game of escalation, where at a point it's just like, that doesn't particularly interest me. So it's like, you know, even if this will probably be a mostly positive discussion. And I remember when we did the first discussion a few years ago, people were like, wow, this is like some of the most positive Boruto discussion I've seen. There definitely is still something about Boruto that's, you know, clearly like a sequel, and I don't know, some of its ideas feel, I don't know how to describe it. I'll just hold on to that thought for once we get further into the chapters, and I'll probably be able to point something out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can think of some potential things you might talk about, but we'll move on for now. So yeah, we get introduced to Kashin Koji, weird mask dude, and they're sort of observing, but they can't really act at the moment.
Right, Kashin Koji is probably one of the things I could bring up as like...
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a bit weird that they had to connect it to that character. I don't really see what that added, but you know, maybe there's a reading that I don't have that maybe it does make sense. But I think maybe the best way to describe it is just like sometimes on a pure like experiential level. I think sometimes, at least going through the manga, you know, maybe the anime is a little different, but like, you know, there are certain nitpicks I could have. But ultimately, it's like I like what the story is doing and I like the characters, so. Not that big of a deal for me.
So anyway, I forgot about this Garo, I guess, angry dude who, you know, fights Kawaki as a way to showcase Kawaki's abilities.
We love our jobbers.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess they also have the, like, because Garo is clearly outfitted with the scientific ninja tools, where they establish that Kawaki is basically a human ninja tool.
Yeah, and I thought this was kind of an interesting, I guess, just escalation of the you know, the ninjas versus tools thing. That, you know, it was definitely in Naruto, the idea of ninjas being tools, but now that, like, you know, with the ninja tools being more of a focus, and you know, Ao was kind of like partially modified, and now you have these people who are like just fully, you know, ninja tool bodies and stuff, but still kind of like, you know, especially with Kawaki in particular, still really exploring that there is like a human side to these people, or there can be, and yeah, I just find that to be an interesting conflict.
No, yeah, the way it sort of layers, like, the ninja stuff with the advancing of the times, you know, as in generational change, which, you know, is, like, I mean, because that's even, I don't even remember if it was in the manga. Maybe it was the flash forward with Kawaki and Boruto fighting in the ruins of Konoha.
Yeah, it's like episode 1 of the anime, and it's chapter 1 of the manga.
Okay, it was chapter 1 of the manga. Yeah, and Kawaki mentioned something about, like, there being no need for ninjas anymore, which, you know, so Boruto is building up to that, I guess, by, like, you know, because why do we need, you know, like, because, so one thing that was cool about this reading that I didn't get in the anime at all was in between the chapters, you had these big write-ups on the setting. I don't know if you stopped to read those. Yeah, but they were... I understand if you didn't, because you just wanted to, oh man, this reading is going so fast. Oh god, whole pages of text that are optional. I'm going to skip them. Yeah, but they were basically just like explanations of how various things in the world of Naruto worked. And I thought they were cool to learn more about the world and setting that, you know, some of it's sort of told implicitly, but having it just stated directly and was really neat, like sort of how, you know, the relationship between like Konoha and the daimyo of fire works, and like how, you know, with the advance of science, like ninjutsu is also advancing, and you know, there's like different types of ninja tools and ninjas that use tech, and yeah, it's just like getting all those little details, which yeah also factors it, you know, talking about like the differences. Like the one thing they mention is like, because you know, one thing that actually the Boruto anime or manga hasn't really like directly addressed yet, I feel, is because like you have Madara and Hashirama's whole thing was that they wanted to make a world where children didn't have to die, basically, and they made their world better. Like it's no, like, you know, I think they both lost siblings in the war, but then, you know, even going forward, like you have like Obito, who very much like, you know, he felt the same way because, you know, Rin died. Like this was a world that children still had to die in, yeah. And you know, so we've seen continual improvement, but here, you know, we still have Boruto putting his life on the line, you know, and you know, he's kind of an exceptional case because he's, you know, connected to some pretty big characters, so he gets involved into shit that, you know, but you know, the other kids his age don't necessarily get caught up in as frequently, but they are still child soldiers, and they do mention in those details that, like, because ninjutsu is such like it's harder, it's just, you know, easier to get kids to learn it than it is to train an adult, if that makes sense, like because it takes a lot of time to learn. So it's just, you know, kind of like how reading, you know, we're all taught to read because it's an important skill that will help us, where for ninjas they're soldiers. So so you know, that's, again, it's not something that Boruto has brought up directly, and I'm still wondering if they will, but you know, it's definitely an important, I feel like, you know, considering it's been brought up directly in the series, you know, I do wonder, yeah, I don't know, just something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kawaki passes the fuck out. Oh yeah, and there's the bit where Mitsuki just mentions that, you know, well, he's bringing up his status as a clone to differentiate himself from Kawaki. And yeah, they decide to take Kawaki back to the village. We do get a brief flashback to Kawaki going to see the karma implementation, sort of ritual ceremony thing. Which is pretty brutal, as we see later. But Naruto's there. Which is, yeah, like you said, we get some very good adult Naruto content. So yeah, they talk about the situation and with the other Kages, who... the moment where Gaara is like, you know what? I trust Naruto. I'm gonna let him, you know, I'm gonna let him protect Kawaki. And you know, the way they sort of compare Kawaki to it. Like, he is a lot like a Jinchuriki in a sense, where, you know, he's literally is possessed by a power that can, like, especially Boruto, it also comes up with him having Momonoshiki within him, you know, so, like, the way that, you know, they're all understanding, and this new generation is more familiar with what was a, you know, ostracized group of people back in the day, and, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Naruto playing tag with Kawaki is fun. Well, I mean, he's trying to run away, and like, how the fuck did he get around? And Naruto, he's just like, yo, God.
Yeah, and then he's also like a bit short for a pre-meal run, and it's like, okay, Naruto. He's taking the opportunity to be the cool guy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Kawaki gets pissed off. Naruto shuts him down that he broke Himawari's vase.
Yeah, it is interesting how in the beginning, you know, even when Kawaki is clearly outmatched, he's like constantly thinking like, how can I escape? How can I get out of here? And, you know, even just, you know, talking to Naruto, he's like, all right, there are two people in the room, 2 ways out. There's another one in the hallway. And then just kind of like over time, you know, it makes it that, you know, when he slowly kind of gets more humanized and, you know, is treated like a fucking person, that, you know, he slowly starts to take down those barriers, and it's a cool change to see.
Yeah, no, Kawaki's definitely, like, you know, him and Boruto are, you know, they are Boruto basically, and Kawaki is just such a good addition to the series.
Yeah,
and I remember watching it because I was like, I knew about this character obviously for a long time since he's in episode 1. You know, but in the anime, he doesn't show up for 180 episodes. Like, that's over 3 years of airtime before we actually see Kawaki. And I don't know, it didn't disappoint. like, I even just from going by the manga stuff, I think he just adds quite a bit to the series, and he's cool. I like him.
Yeah, I had an interesting thought sort of later on in the arc, but I mean, I don't think it's gonna be true. But it was like I had no, I'll wait until we get there.
Okay. So, well, first there's a little bit where, you know, Hinata's throwing away the vase, and Himawari's a little sad about it being broken. And then we get Boruto and Kawaki fighting in the morning, and, like, literally fighting. Like, they go outside, and they're fucking they're just arguing, and just, like, Naruto's just trying to fucking take his morning shit, and he can't have a fucking break with these fucking kids. Like, I don't know, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, Naruto's just kind of like, yeah, you know, I've been there before. A little rivalry is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Then we get there's a brief scene with we go back to Kawaki getting the karma and literally killing the kids who are unfit for it. But yeah, there's we see more of some of Boruto's growth with, you know, because, like, you know, they agree to get rid of the karma, or they both want it gone basically, and then, you know, Kawaki's like, I already apologized for breaking the vase, but it's like, you know, Boruto, like, we saw him before again with the jacket, you know, but then he came to value, like, his dad's jacket, which was all beat up and dirty, and you know, like, some things have sentimental value and aren't really replaceable, you know, so he's sort of like, you know, I like that Boruto very directly, like, takes what he's learned and applies it in other things, and not always, like we saw with the ninja tools, not always in the best way or a way full of understanding, but in this case, you know, I think he's pretty, you know, reasonable that, like, you know, yeah, Kawaki just saying sorry isn't going to fix the vase, so Kawaki decides to fix the vase. Well, first he goes to buy the other one first, I suppose, but
yeah. And I do also just Kawaki's general mentality that kind of comes up here, you know, where Boruto says, you know, it's amazing that you were spared, and he's like, no, I wish I had died. And the one line that really got me a bit later, when Naruto does the shadow clones, and Kawaki's like, oh, that seems really useful. And then Naruto, I forget what Naruto says, but Kawaki's like, yeah, you know, you can have a fight with yourself and beat the shit out of yourself when you've had too much. And it's like, oh. And then when Naruto's like been there, done that. Oh.
God, it's such like a little thing, but it adds, because it fits what Naruto went through as a kid, because and it's basically self-harm, you know, like, he's literally fighting it, beating the shit out of himself to try and feel better, and it's not working, and he's understanding, like, as an adult who's gone through that, he gets it now, but, like, you know, and he's able to, yeah, I was definitely gonna say like one of the strongest things about this arc is how like, because if Boruto was its own thing, like, you know, I'm sure the story would still be neat, but just the fact that like it's Naruto, that this character who we have so much like weight with after a 70 volume prequel series to this, basically, like it's so good. Oh yeah, then we get Kawaki being introduced to his favorite food. He has some taiyaki, and he's like, "Wow, this is fucking delicious."
I really liked the gag at like the end of one of the chapters where it's like, okay, we're gonna make this one really spicy, and he's like, "This is delicious," and it's like all the food that Kawaki eats is delicious.
He's literally lived like shit before, so like, yeah, of course he's just gonna like everything. Yeah, no, I was gonna bring that up too. It's very good. Then we also see he still has some issues when like just a kid fucking bumps into him, and he goes fucking, well, like,
yeah,
he was trying to teach them a lesson in the first place, because he had a rough upbringing. He knows like, yeah, the world isn't as easy, you know, but obviously it comes across, he's just, yeah, I don't know, they do a very good job of establishing how he just thinks fundamentally differently from everyone else in the world, and I like that, or in this corner of the world, excuse me. So
I love that movie.
God damn it. I do too.
But yeah, I also imagine that's kind of like, you know, he says that he was teaching a lesson, but it also to me kind of felt like, you know, because he's so used to like being on guard at all times and having people coming after him, so that like when someone accidentally runs into him, he probably goes into like self-defense mode, and he's like, all right, fight time.
Yeah, for sure. Like he was like that when, you know, because like obviously he was unconscious at the start of the arc, and Boruto, if they wanted to hurt him, they very easily could have, but still, even though they didn't, like, just the fact that like he was remotely vulnerable was, you know, set him off completely. Like he's a bit messed up.
Yeah, and like getting the line from Sarada where she's like, "What kind of childhood did you have?" And we already know at this point, so it's like, oh, you don't know.
But yeah, then we get the flower shop with Ino, and I like how, you know, because like, God, maybe it even factors into the privilege thing where they keep kind of assuming things about him, and like, yeah, he is really messed up, but like with the kid, you know, like, you know, he probably wasn't about to murder this child, but you know, the fact that they assumed that he might have, like, you know, and then here with the vase, he literally just like grabs the vase and he's like, "This is good," and they just assume that he just like picked the first thing that he saw, but no, he did think about it. You know, he's not an animal, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, he's very broken and, you know, twisted in a lot of ways, but he's not like the person that they're assuming he is necessarily. And oh god, the scene, the trauma that he has when he drops the vase, and Naruto fucking hugs him.
Yeah.
God, good dad, Naruto.
Yeah, and this is a case where, like, you know, I think the you know, the art kind of does a good thing, because I really like the expression on Naruto's face when it's just like, you can clearly see, like, you know, how much it, like, seeing how much Kawaki's affected by this, and he just kind of has that like pained look on his face.
Yeah, like, and like there's a line later Sarada has where it's like she kind of feels like Naruto's a dad to her too, in a sense, and like, because Naruto even said like Konoha is his family, right? And like, you know, again, that's something we know and feel from his own journey of, like, you know, struggling with this town that ostracized him, and, you know, them coming to love him, and, you know, him in turn reciprocating that and protecting Konoha, and just like, you know, like, and just this little moment, like, he's barely knows this kid who isn't even from Konoha, but he's like, he's there for him, and it's so good. Good dad Naruto.
Yeah, I feel like it's also just like a good, I guess, sort of building on his character, because, like, you know, when he was in that position, you know, he was kind of ostracized by everybody. So now that he's Hokage, he's kind of taking on the role of like, I'm not going to let anyone be in the position that I was in. And so, like, yeah, like they say, like, everyone is family to the Hokage. And it's also, you know, that was what the third Hokage would say. So sort of like, you know, that influence coming back, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I was laughing because Boruto saw the vase that Kawaki got, but then he also like, okay, sure, you're actually sincere, but this is my response, and he hands him the glue.
Yeah.
You're like, fix it, that bitch, and Kawaki's like, you know, he does it, but he's not happy about it.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of it as like, connecting it to the jacket from previous arcs, but that's probably just because it's been years. But yeah, that's a good building on his character, and then like reflecting it back to Kawaki. Good stuff.
But anyway, there's a brief scene with Kashi and Koji infiltrating the village. Then we see some training, which is of course building up to Kawaki, being interested in ninja and ninjutsu. And their respective usages of the karma, and seeing Naruto teach the Unisys sign is nice, just because the way it's used at the end of Naruto is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And more juxtaposition between how Jigen taught Kawaki to fight versus how Naruto does it. And then we get the shadow clone scene that you brought up earlier. That's really good. So Kawaki starts building the vase, and I just wanted to point out how, like, I don't know, it's a good, I think it was someone else who just, before I even watched the material or read it, that, like, Kawaki's literally rebuilding his life, but also just, like, a vase is a vessel, and he's, but this is something that's valued, and, it becomes filled with, water and flowers, and so he's, like, him putting it back together again and sort of, like, remaking what that means, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, I just think it's a good fitting symbol for Kawaki's character and what he's going through.
Yeah. And, he even says, like, what good is a vase if all the water, comes out of it because there's a hole in it. Mm-hmm. What was the other thing I was going to say? It'll come back to me.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. And, so I was just noticing Kashi and Koji using his frogs. Did you have any thoughts about that reading it? Because I was kind of spoiled a little bit even before I watched it. I just saw some people discussing Boruto, and I just saw clone of Jiraiya coming up. So I was wondering, like, what were your thoughts going into it?
Well, I think kind of the whole time I was wondering who he was, because it's like clearly the mask is there for a reason. So it's like, which character is this calling back to? And I guess in hindsight, the frogs and everything, it was pretty clear that it was clone of Jiraiya. And that was a twist that didn't really do anything for me. That's kind of one of those instances where the execution and like the experience of it doesn't really land with me, because it's like, why do we need to call back to this? Maybe it ties into the theming of the arc somehow with like legacy and I don't know. It just I wasn't the biggest fan of that twist. But at the same time, it's like, it's fine. It happens and they move on.
Because like there was the line that Jigen or Isshiki mentioned about blood, like, because he even said like, you're gonna die just like Jiraiya did, and I guess like Koji also, like, because he was used as a ninja tool, but he also like kept fighting sort of beyond his use as a tool, which might have been in some, like, maybe it was like lending some credence to Jigen's words, and that he's more like Jiraiya than he even needed to be, if that makes sense. So I don't know, but yeah, maybe, I don't know, I forget if I got anything more of it in the anime versus what I just read in the manga. So
and I guess at the end of that battle, there was also the thing where like he summons the frog and it eats him. So it's like, is he still alive? Is he gonna come back?
Oh shit! I don't even remember if he died. You're right.
Because like, I assumed he was gonna die, but when the frog showed up, it's like, I'm not entirely sure. And then like Jigen has that line afterwards where it's like, although I guess at that point it's Isshiki, and he's just sort of like, like what's he planning to do or whatever. I don't know. I think also kind of a feeling I was having in this arc, and maybe I had this feeling before, going through the other stuff, but really thinking back to how like Momoshiki, or no, Otsutsuki, like that is a big connecting tissue throughout like this whole series. And really just thinking about how, and I can't help but compare it to Dragon Ball Super in a way, how it's like, these are both sequel series kind of building on a pre-existing property, but kind of just more clicking into place for me that like Kishimoto and, I guess, because it was Ikemoto and, he had his assistants and they were all kind of like working on it together and planning ahead for Boruto. So really just thinking how the ending of Naruto, and I mean, that could be something that people have problems with, which I think is fair, that like the Naruto ending kind of got worked into like a setup for Boruto, and like the whole idea that this arc seems to really dig into, of like chakra being, you know, this like binding force and something that connects everyone. And, you know, how that was sort of Kaguya's thing, where she was like where all chakra sort of stemmed from. I don't remember the full details of it, but you know, like, I guess in hindsight it does kind of make me like, I don't know, it's kind of a double-edged sword, where I kind of do appreciate Kaguya more in hindsight, because it was clearly like this series has done so much to build off of that, and really kind of make it its own. But yeah, it is still a little frustrating, again, on like that experiential level, where it's like, you know, Naruto not really getting the conclusive ending that maybe it could have had, just for the sake of like branching into Boruto. But but then like going back to like Dragon Ball Super, and how probably why Boruto works so much better, I think, as a sequel series, because I'm just not really a big fan of Dragon Ball Super. You know, we've read it now at this point, and you know, I'm not going to say that like Boruto doesn't also explore kind of like fan servicey concepts of like, hey, we're going to bring back this technique, or we're going to explore this thing. But like I think Boruto is able to work a lot better, probably because it came right off the back of Naruto's finale, and even the ending of Naruto kind of written in a way to facilitate a sequel series. And clearly it's like the people who were working on the story of Naruto are still kind of around, even if it's like Kishimoto had less of a role, but he's still clearly factoring into it as well. Whereas like Dragon Ball Super is kind of like 20 years later, or however long, trying to like capture the same kind of magic again, but in a new sort of modern lens, and in a way that doesn't always work for me. But it really feels like with Boruto, like it does feel like a continuation. And like I said, a lot of the like thematic concepts are still there and very much influencing the story. And so I guess in that way, it doesn't really feel like there's so much of a disconnect between the two that I kind of feel with, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm not too big on the whole, like, angle of comparison and stuff, but I feel like it's kind of hard in this situation, where it's like, you know, we did go through Dragon Ball Super, and I kind of had feelings about that. And then, like, coming back to Boruto again, and it's like, yeah, you know, Boruto is good.
What you made me think about is how, like, yeah, with Kaguya, it's like, in the context of just Naruto, I'm fine with her as this sort of like, you know, even if on her own, like, she's more of I feel like an extension of Madara's character in a sense of just like his ideals. So in that way, she doesn't work on her own as well, even though I still think, you know, she offers a lot to the series. But I hadn't thought about how, like, well, especially because, so I don't know how well received she was in Japan, where obviously from my experience with the English speaking community, she's generally like disliked, if not hated, right?
But Kaguya being kind of like a folklore in Japan, and having much more of a, maybe folklore wasn't the word, but yeah, I could see it being more of a, being viewed more positively there, potentially.
Yeah, but also thought of just as far as fan service goes, is like, as far as a sequel to Naruto, like, you know, again, I have no idea what the response in Japan is, but it's like, yeah, we're going to take this character nobody likes and make them the focal point of everything going on. And it's like, yeah, this will be a positively well-received decision. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know the reception in Japan, but, you know, it is very much like, I don't know, in some senses risky, I think, which, you know, I think generally people see Boruto as like, it's safe, it's just a sequel, it's a next generation thing, where it's more Naruto, it's more the same, you know, but I don't know, and I guess it is still like the Otsutsukis are familiar in a sense, but I don't know, maybe it's not risky, but it's just a thought I had, and I do like how they're going, especially like this arc, we get more context into their thing. Like, we don't even know what the deal with Kaguya betraying Isshiki was about, or if we're ever going to get that, because both of them are gone now, so both the characters who would know anything about that aren't in the story, right? So, you know, and hell, actually, fuck, I'm wondering, like, I feel like if Kaguya planted a karma somewhere, it would have come up, but, you know,
it might have come up, but yeah, it kind of, and like, I know she had like the anime episodes that kind of fleshed out her backstory a little more.
It's been a while, but I did watch those too.
It's definitely something that could potentially come up more in the future, or maybe not, and it's just sort of like,
maybe not, yeah,
there's the foundation. It's
because it is kind of like, even just thinking about her retroactively, like, just knowing what the deal with the Otsutsukis is, and the fact that Kaguya didn't do it. Basically, like, yeah, she made the divine tree, but she didn't necessarily seem like, I don't know, was she going? I guess she was manipulating Madara, so I guess her goal was ultimately get to fruit. But like, you know, she didn't fuck around with the karma any. It looks like, because she's not still around, or maybe she is. Maybe Kaguya coming back is going to be a thing that happens. I don't fucking know. But you know, I do wonder if we do get more Kaguya, or flashbacks, or in the series, like how it's gonna mix with all this new information. So I don't know. I hadn't considered that while reading or watching even. So and
I think going back to the idea of like comparing it to Dragon Ball Super, I think that's just sort of a framework I've kind of had in my head for basically like as long as Boruto's been on my radar. You know, because it's interesting looking at kind of these two sequel series that are kind of like, you know, building off of nostalgia and you know, like trying to you know, present it in like a newer, updated kind of maybe not updated, but you know, like it's a different framework that they're approaching each series with. And I just think it's a really interesting idea, like looking at the two and sort of how each one does things. I probably came off as mostly negative toward Dragon Ball Super in this discussion, but I mean, like, there were still good things that were in Super.
I feel like, I think we both overall, like even if we don't like it's not close to the original Dragon Ball, I think overall our feelings are positive-ish, you know?
Yeah.
Towards Dragon Ball Super at the end of the day. So, you know.
I'm like, maybe that's a future video of, like, just really breaking down the two and, like, the pros and cons of each. I don't know.
Gotta watch all of Dragon Ball Super first, and all of Boruto.
I take it back. Delete it.
Alright, so anyway.
Dragon Ball Super? What's that? Anyway.
Oh god, you went too far in the opposite direction. So anyway, Boruto and Kawaki do some training, and more fleshing out of the karma and what it explaining its deal is a little bit, teeny bit, or foreshadowing it at least, before Delta comes in, and she gets a little fight against Naruto. Sure, it was a fight. Naruto's still really strong. Not sure if any big takeaways personally.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if I had anything, you know, like any big takeaway from it either, other than like, I don't know. I guess I kind of like Delta's vibe. She's just always angry and aggressive and combative, and you know, I guess in that way, you know, she's kind of a striking character. I don't know if I had much to say on the fight itself. Yeah,
I mean, you know, Naruto being Naruto and protecting, and like, you know, like there's an observation about like where Boruto and Kawaki are wondering if they should help, but it's like he's literally like in control of the fight to the point that like we're not in any danger at all. Like he's that far above her, basically.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about how, like, design wise, I feel like her more so than any other character that has appeared in Boruto is something that like Kishimoto would not draw, if that makes sense. Like, not as a negative either. Like, she's like, you know, there's the, I don't know, she's just kind of, I don't know, it's just something I thought about where just like I feel like this character, like, you know, she's just really different from, you know, general Naruto designs, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, and like the eyes in particular, where, you know, it's like a ninja tool and she can absorb jutsu with it. And yeah, just kind of like the slashes through it. It's an interesting, like, you know, for Naruto being a series that has a lot of, you know, magical eyes. Although I guess this wouldn't be magical because it's a ninja tool, but
science eyes.
Science eyes. Yeah, but it's still pretty striking, and I think works all right.
And yeah, I guess like another thought I had was just how like, because I think there's there's the take that Naruto fights became less about tactics or something, and it's just like where did they get that idea? I don't even know, because like even in Boruto, like that's still a major, even with a character as strong as Naruto fighting a character who he has complete power over, you know, like it's still, you know, there's still stuff going on, and then of course, like, you know, even Himori gets involved, and
I was also thinking when Kashin Koji is fighting Jigen, and then like Isshiki, like he had a plan going into it of like, this is how we're gonna, you know, kill Jigen and force Isshiki to revive and stuff. And it's not even that like Naruto. Well, yeah, no, never mind. I'm not gonna say what I was thinking because I don't know if that's even necessarily true.
Okay. But yeah, Kawaki gets his moment protecting Naruto and Himawari, losing his arm. Like he's already been like literally just after like maybe a day, he's been given so much by Naruto that he's like, and he already didn't value his life very much at in the first place, but like he's willing to give it and throw it away, like, as we find out especially later, like he's willing to sacrifice everything for Naruto if he needs to.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool moment because, like I'm going throughout this whole fight and I'm like, she's gonna do, as soon as like the eye beams were introduced, I'm like, oh, she's gonna go after the kids and Naruto's gonna do a thing. But then like Kawaki did it and it's like, oh, okay, they subverted my expectations, and like, it worked for the character as well. So good stuff. But I also kind of like then how that gets twisted by Shikamaru, who, he's like the intelligent one. He's the skeptic. He's like, well, that all could have been orchestrated. And like, it's like, it's a lot to think about, but it's like when he didn't have answers at that time, it was still sort of like a logical progression of like, that's not impossible.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good point. Though also, I'm getting to the end of the fight where Naruto's doing the thing with the absorbing, the Dragon Ball thing where, oh, you got a power that absorbs my energy source? You don't say. What could possibly go wrong with it? Especially when, like, because Naruto's got fucking, the most chakra of it. He's an Uzumaki clan, plus he's got fucking Kurama as his bro. Like, he's got more chakra than any motherfucker I imagine. So, and like, his naming sense is just so bad. It's funny where it's like giant Rasengan, super giant Rasengan. I don't fucking know what it's super giant Rasengan. Naruto is still such a dork. I love him.
This is it's like Super Saiyan Blue, Orange Piccolo type stuff.
Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan. Like, yeah, it's so silly.
I did also like the little exchange in the fight where Delta's like, you're a horrible actor, like, pretending like I'm beating you up when it's like you're fine. This is a cool little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, even if it's not necessarily like, I don't know if tactics is the thing, but there's definitely something different about like, I guess like the vibe of some of these fights than, in original Naruto, but I'm not sure if I could like place it at this point. Maybe it's just a scale thing of like, it feels like, obviously like the power ceiling is higher, and so there's more kind of, I don't know. I'm really not sure how I would place it, but if someone in the comments maybe knows what I'm talking about and could phrase it better, I don't know.
I mean, I guess just try and spitball, like, one thought I had is just like, I mean, one thing different about this fight, and also, well, because like throughout Naruto and Sasuke are both increasing in power, where obviously at this point they've sort of reached their peak, more or less.
So it's more like punching down instead of punching up?
Yeah, like this fight is a good example of that, where Naruto, he's way stronger than Delta, but it's still made interesting through, like, there's other characters involved, like Himawari becomes a hostage, and, Kawaki and Boruto aren't, like, they can contribute, but they're not really, strong enough to accomplish anything significant on their own. They're more just there to create openings for Naruto, in a sense. Right, and then obviously with Isshiki, he is really powerful, and Naruto and Sasuke don't just have, so that one's, that one's a little bit different. But even then, if that one feels different to you, then I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. So anyway, Kawaki, or Delta, blows up her body after she gets defeated. Kawaki has lost his hands, so they do give him a prosthetic one that Naruto had.
Yeah, I thought the way that the hand was used in this arc, and like, again, like with chakra being like a binding force, as it said, and how, like, Naruto, continuing to like give of why am I stumbling over my words? Give of himself for Kawaki's sake, and and yeah, and also, like, with losing the hand, it's like the same hand that Naruto lost, and kind of like connecting them in another way. It's neat.
I honestly forgot that, like, even though they talk about the prosthetic hands, I literally forgot that, that was the same hand Naruto lost, even though he's literally used it, like, they didn't alter the thumb or anything. Like, I don't know why I forgot that, but that's good, yeah. Probably because it might be easy to forget just because Naruto, like, he just uses his prosthetic, like, Sasuke doesn't bother with that shit. He's just fucking got one arm now. That's just his life.
Yeah.
Where Naruto does have the prosthetic hands, so I kind of forget that he lost it sometimes. So yeah, Delta comes back to their base, pissed off as, like you mentioned, she's always pissed off, but this time she's like extra more pissed off.
Yeah, like I really like the exchange where she just kicked open the like pod roof, and he's like, "Would you stop doing that?" And she's
just
like,
wait
my
like 3 seconds for it to
destroy.
open, please. It's just such a piece of shit. I also kind of forgot that, I don't think she dies. She's just still alive at the end of the arc, which I bring up because I haven't seen her in the anime in fucking 100 episodes, so,
Yeah, it's like she had all these copies, and she was sort of, like, deactivated, it kind of looked like at the end, but she's definitely still around, presumably.
Yep. We also see more of Kara's inners with Boro, who we see later, and Code, who is the guy with the weird thing over his face. And I bring him up because he's the namesake of the next arc, and his arc was just getting started in the anime before the anime ended. So I don't really know much about this guy's deal that we didn't already see. But he's more striking to me now. I don't even know if he was really in the anime before. Like if he was in the anime at this point, he didn't leave a presence on me. But where now when like reading it and seeing him again, I'm like, oh, it's that guy who I So
I also thought, just like, knowing that there were like traitors within Kara, I feel like I picked up on that like as soon as they were sort of dropping hints. So I mean, it was definitely like foreshadowed well enough. Like even just moments where like Jigen is saying something, and you kind of get the look from, I forget his name, but the scientist guy. And it's like he doesn't say anything, but they just hang on him for a couple panels, and it's like, yeah, okay, I see where this is going.
He's just smoking a cigarette. Nothing suspicious going on there. We go back to Kawaki and Boruto after the bad guys scheme, and Naruto, like Kawaki's like, "Why the hell would you, give so much for me?" And Naruto's like, "You remind me of me as a kid." So it's like, Then we get a little scene where Kawaki gets a Naruto card that he's cool with.
Yeah, it really is just like, it's another instance of like, Boruto having so much time with his dad, I guess, that he's sort of like, I mean, not as much as he did before, but kind of like taking it for granted, whereas everyone else is like, like with the cards, like he gets a Naruto card, which is like, oh, I always get these. And then Kawaki's like, hey, can I have that?
Right.
And then you also get the line from Sarada later, where she's like, yeah, I've also had times where I thought, like, would life be better if Naruto was my dad? And just, it's interesting.
Well, what I hadn't thought about is because, like, we saw that, like, with the, the vase and him sort of, like, changing his mindset in some ways about, like, objects, and, he's still, at the end of the day, he's still pretty privileged, and he still has, like, he's taking what he has for granted, I think, I hadn't thought about that, where it's like, he's, oh no, another Lord 7th card, like, he keeps getting SS rare cards, like, it's fucking nothing, and he's just like, it's the same one though, like, like, he's just, he has, and like, he's, like, there's like, twice when he's, like, complaining about Naruto being there, and then Himari or Hinata's like, yeah, but you're happy about that though, or isn't Boruto looking happier these days or anything? And he's like, no, I'm not happy that my dad's spending more time with me, leave me alone. Like, he's a little shit. I like Boruto. But then we get a montage where, Kawaki's learning his ninja training, hanging out with the other kids a bit too, which is cool. And rebuilding the vase. Oh fuck, I forgot about this part. So Kawaki's just chilling, and there's a giant fox sitting in the fucking, like, Karama's just like, hey kid, how's it going? And the way Karama, it's like, sort of talks to Kawaki as sort of like, he's his own sort of Jigen, his Isshiki, in a sense, to Naruto. And so, like
and
the way,
again,
like,
doing kind of like the talk no jutsu thing, where it's like Naruto parallels. Although, like, I don't think this arc does like because like they never fight, so it's not really a talk no jutsu in that way. But still with like the parallels and like finding ways to connect characters to Naruto, and it's like, that's my MC.
No, yeah, and the way, especially, like, because Kawaki has, he like, oh, wow, with such a powerful beast, like, you inside of him, no wonder Naruto's the Hokage, and Kurama's like, no, I got in his way for most of his life, like, he became what he is in spite of me. It's like, Kurama's so good.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but, like, the one panel where he's, like, like he got treated harshly by others. He always ends up on the swings, and he's like, and not because he liked the swings, mind you. And I'm like, oh, all right.
God.
It was just kind of funny. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand that because it is a little weird of a line, but and yeah, the way he specifically frames Naruto as a vessel for Kurama is just like he just drives it home for Kawaki, and it's really good.
And then the fucking imagery where it's like Kawaki has like a tear running down his cheek, and then you get the hole in the vase and the water leaking out, and it's like, God,
it's good.
Bit on the nose, but it's effective.
No, for sure. Yeah, I don't mind straightforward storytelling. Person. I mean, I read Shounen, and I watch Precure and Doremi, like whatever. They're literal baby shows, but yeah. So, still good.
Oh yeah, I like the page where Kawaki is doing the tree climbing, and Naruto's like, if only you knew how much trouble I had learning how to climb the tree, and Boruto's like, it was easy for me too, and Naruto's just like, ... All right, let's move on.
I see why people hate Boruto as a character. He's got everything that Naruto had to fight for. Like, he's talented, he's got money, he's got family, and Naruto's like,
Yeah, Naruto's just like, all right, why don't you just insult me to my face?
Rest in peace.
Like, I'm not bitter.
But anyway, Sarada talks to Chocho about Naruto as a dad to the village. Meanwhile, Sasuke is doing his thing, poking around for the Otsutsuki stuff.
I just kind of having another experience. Like I sort of talked about it in the that Nono Show episode would have gone up that we're recording this. But like I was talking to someone who isn't familiar with Boruto, but like has seen most of Naruto, and like just showing them like the character designs, and they were just like, how did Sasuke's design get even edgier with like the bangs over the eye? It's just like, I don't know. That was a fun little story where it's like, yeah, that's my edgy boy. That's Sasuke.
He's an edgy man now.
Edgy man.
But yeah, he finds Isshiki's pet 10 tails, which is just, that's there.
Yeah, I think it's like also going back to Boruto and just sort of having that experience where it's like, I feel like I sometimes undersell or forget like how much I connect to, Naruto and Sasuke, and how much like Naruto as a story is kind of like, it has sort of that nostalgia and like that impact on me that I sometimes forget about. And then like coming back and seeing these two characters again, and like, the part where they initially fight Jigen, and Sasuke shows up and then they're fighting together, it's like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how often do we see them fight together?
Sorry, I thought I had to sneeze for a second. Oh yeah, there's an interesting connection. I actually forget what, but they mentioned the mitotic regeneration jutsu that Tsunade and Sakura use, and kind of compare that to the chakra. And I kind of forgot about that, or if that went anywhere in this reading. But I mean, I think it's interesting, at least because, like, the Otsutsukis are the parents of ninjutsu in a sense. Like Kaguya literally being, the mother of this world's ninjutsu, and the Sage of Six Paths and all that stuff. So it makes sense. Like I remember when we were rereading Naruto, and fucking Kimimaro is specifically mentioned to be part of the Kaguya clan, and I was like, oh. What?
Yeah.
Right, so like, but which of course it's literally just like, yeah, he uses this jutsu, this bone stuff that Kaguya also later uses. Like, that's really it. That's the whole connection, but like, and they keep mentioning the Byakugan showing up because they use that, and so like, yeah, I don't know. It's all, so it makes sense that this would be another thing that would be kind of connected. But again, I forget if they brought that up again in this reading, or if it's something that will come up later, or if it will come up at all. I don't know.
I just got to the page where Boruto is like, yeah, we're going to take him down together, right, bro? And it's like,
Yeah.
So good.
They're cool.
Like, there were definitely a couple of specific pages like that where, like, something happened and I'm like, let's go. The other ones I'm thinking of are a bit later, but that one is like, yeah, no, it's like, it's kind of like this series, Naruto and Sasuke in a way, and they're both really good characters, and like, yeah, definitely, I think of the Boruto specific characters that have been introduced so far, I feel like Kawaki is probably like pretty easily the standout for me.
No, yeah, Kawaki, yeah, is really fucking good. I agree. Like, I haven't even thought about favorite Boruto characters because it's hard.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's, versus, like, with the manga, I think it's very, I understand 100% loving Kawaki because he's so good. But with the anime, it's like it adds so much to all the characters that I can't even just be like, yeah, Kawaki's my favorite. Like, I love him,
that makes
for
sense.
Sure. But I love everyone else too. So fuck. Like it probably would still be Kawaki, but I'd still have to I'd have to think about it. So
yeah. Whereas like the manga, because it kind of glosses over some of the other characters, it makes sense that Kawaki would feel more standout. Because this is kind of like, again, having that experience where you're familiar with this material already, but this is like my introduction to it.
Right. So anyway, Jigen pops in on the Ten Tails. Sasuke sort of gets a look at Gasp. He's actually, he looks like that Otsutsuki. But yeah, sorry, I just laughed. Boruto's like running through the trees and he just fucking slips and just runs into one like a dope.
It's like, that never happens to me.
And then it's fucking Sakura, like, because everyone's just chatting and we just see some people, in the village, and it's like, oh, Sasuke's coming home, and Sakura's like blushing because she's so happy.
Yeah, and has the line where it's like, how do you remain a girl in love forever, like that.
Those two. So yeah, then as otherwise quiet and normal day, fucking Jigen just teleports into where Kawaki is. Like, he could have literally done this at any time, but he's just a piece of shit. And then of course Kashin Koji has to mention of like how he was tasked with capturing Kawaki, but Jigen literally could have done it at any time, and so he's sort of like testing Kashin Koji in that way.
Yeah, and the way it's framed later, where it's like, where he describes it as like, like with tasking him with like picking up a parcel that he could get himself, but it's like he doesn't want to be bothered if he doesn't have to. And it's just like, and again, kind of like, in that way comparing Kawaki to just like a not like a thing, nothing object, right? A thing. Yeah. And just like, fucker.
And yeah, then he quickly takes Naruto down for a moment. He just, has the upper hand since he, has the element of surprise, more or less. Kawaki's sort of actually challenging him, though, and rejecting him, but he's like, and Jigen's kind of like, basically gaslighting him and saying that, what Naruto's doing isn't any different from than what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he's just, he's an abusive piece of shit.
Yeah, the way that a lot of that is portrayed, I think, is very, like, effective, and, you get a lot of moments where, Kawaki flashing back to his past, or like even in the final fight where he's like, come out, Kawaki, and he's like saying all these things that'll dig at him and manipulate him, and he's just kind of like, but yeah, and the way it all pays off is very good, when it's just like you finally get that moment of them defeating him, and it's like, it's so cathartic.
Yeah. No, Jigen's a pretty good antagonist, I think, of just like, he does his job. He does it well. He's a piece of shit. It's satisfying watching him get the shit beat out of him. So,
You're nothing but a nauseating, worthless rat bastard. Go off, King.
Jigen teleports Naruto off after Kawaki declares that, he'd rather give himself up to Jigen than let Naruto die. Yeah, like you said, Sasuke just fucking comes in out of nowhere to kick Jigen. And yeah, you got 2-on-1 with the bros teaming up.
Yes, let's go.
Oh yeah, and I like Sasuke, figuring out Jigen's abilities, which are, pretty rare, I guess. Like, it's a power we haven't really seen in Naruto before, so.
Yeah, this is, like seeing this exchange happen, it really did kind of hit me. Again, like in terms of like the escalation thing, like by the end of Naruto, like Naruto and Sasuke were already kind of like gods in this world. And so it's like the only thing that can really contend with them at this point is another, godlike being.
Yep.
And
No,
yeah,
yeah,
so
and,
it's
yeah.
interesting. And this is like,
Oh yeah,
this arc is sort of the first time I feel like, well, I guess in the tuning exams we kind of got a taste of it, but that like, this is, because like with some of the arcs and the conflicts in Boruto, it's definitely been scaled down for like conflicts that Boruto and his comrades can kind of deal with, but this one is very much like opening things up, and it's like we're at Naruto and Sasuke level, and Boruto and his crew are clearly just like outmatched. They can do very little, and so I think that definitely makes this arc distinct in ways. And again, there's kind of like I don't know, like what I've liked about some of the other Boruto arcs is that we haven't really seen the power ceiling to this point, but it had to happen eventually. Yeah. And I guess this was like about as good of a way to handle it as any.
No, that's a good point, because especially to beat the dead horse and bring up the Dragon Ball Super comparison is that by necessity Dragon Ball Super has, I feel like yeah, especially with just how prevalent and strong, like, because it's like if it wasn't Goku and Vegeta, it'd just be Gohan, right? Or Piccolo, which is what we see in the superheroes movie, so I think it makes sense that Super does have to just push the envelope further, just because that's the kind of story Dragon Ball is. And right, so, and in fact, one thing I like about Super is how Goku and Vegeta aren't just the strongest guys, because you have Beerus, you have Whis, you have Jiren, you have all these other characters who are just chilling and stronger than them, and I think that's kind of cool and different from Dragon Ball, actually, even if at the end of the day it's still raising the ceiling, but it's doing so in a different way than Dragon Ball, where in this case, it is kind of neat how by focusing on Boruto, you're able to lower the reel the story back in, because he is strong and like he's more talented than Naruto was as a genin, for a lot of the story, I think, and he has different capabilities, but now we're pushing that ceiling back up again to where it normally is, so or where it was at the end of Naruto, rather. So
and I guess it's also kind of like running into like the nostalgia factor of longtime Naruto fans who've spent a lot of time with these characters like Naruto and Sasuke, and so like seeing them challenged in this way, I feel like could definitely rub some people the wrong way. Like I remember even just again, like talking about the experience of reading it, like when they were fighting Jigen and they were all beaten up and he didn't have a scratch on him, I'm like, oh come on. But it's like that's kind of how it has to go. And I feel like it's I don't know where I was going with that point, but yeah.
I feel like it's easy enough to justify, just because like you have two characters, younger characters, like at the peak of their development, and during a war, where here you have two older characters in a time of peace. Like I like how series like One Piece, like Oda will just say like, I want to draw old people who are just fucking awesome, and he'll have fucking Whitebeard and Garp and Rayleigh just fucking throw down with the youngsters like it's nothing.
At the end of the day, this is Boruto's story now, so it's like eventually we were gonna have to, even though they haven't necessarily surpassed Naruto and Sasuke yet, it's definitely like, we were going to have to cross that threshold eventually where the baton gets passed. And it really kind of felt like, I think the conclusion of this arc kind of felt to me like the, All Might versus All for One fight, where it's like All Might doesn't die, but he is like, his power is drastically reduced, and he's essentially a non-combatant now. And so that other people have to take the baton and move forward. That's kind of what it felt like with Naruto losing Kurama.
Well, also, and I kind of forgot about it until you were talking about it, but it's also Sasuke losing his Rinnegan.
Yeah.
Because he just gets stabbed and boom, that's gone. So like they both. So you literally have the two strongest ninjas in Konoha losing a fraction of their a major fraction of their power.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. I didn't think of the MHA comparison.
And also those kind of being like big holdovers from the original Naruto, and it's like, so not like we kind of hit the power ceiling, and I'm not sure how future arcs will go with this, but now that they've both kind of been undercut, it maybe makes it so that like maybe the next arc the stakes won't be quite as high, or it could still be high, and it's just that much more like of a desperation thing, because it's like now the two strongest people in the Leaf Village have kind of been cut down to an extent.
And speaking of someone who like I'm really not, like at this point I'm not much farther in Boruto than you, which is weird to say because I've watched 300 episodes of anime and it's like, wait, I'm not actually far, because I literally like I've only gone like maybe a volume or like part of a second volume farther just of what the anime is adapted, so I know a little bit of Code Steel and some other characters that got introduced that arc. But yeah, I really have no fucking idea where the series is gonna go, because like obviously the looming threat of the Otsutsukis is, you know, there, but in what form is it gonna come, you know? So like because I guess I'll point out, because was the fishing Otsutsuki in the movie or the manga? There was a guy he had like a fishing rod, and he was voiced by Zoro in the anime. I don't remember if he was there.
Remember that, okay. But if it was earlier, you know, that was years ago. So I don't know. Yeah,
because I'm just trying, because there was Momotsuki, and then there was the bigger one whose name I forget. In the Chunin exams arc, and
Kinshiki.
Kinshiki, thank you. And then there was a third one who showed up. I just wanted to bring him up because if he did show up in the movie or the early parts of the manga, in the anime he's been killed already, so he's not an issue anymore.
I'm
so
like,
there
was the antagonist in the Naruto the last movie, but I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
Oh no! He actually has shown up in the Naruto and the Boruto anime briefly. But not in an antagonistic role. He's still on the moon just chilling, I guess. So I forgot about that, actually, because that was an interesting little, like, oh, fuck, this guy moment. So, but yeah, because I was just thinking, because as far as the Otsutskis, like, there's presumably a bunch of them out there. Like, they're these intergalactic fucking conquerors, pretty much, who just, you know, suck the lives out of worlds and, you know, to update themselves, as they say.
That kind of did make me wonder, like, when we were getting more of the lore of the Otsutsukis, it's like, are we gonna go to space? Is Naruto gonna go to space? Is that the end game here?
Let's go! Boruto and Kawaki fighting on the moon. Actually, that already happened in the last
You're right.
movie.
Yeah, they already did go to the moon. So, yeah.
What's beyond the moon in Naruto? I don't know. Do they have Mars? I don't fucking understand cosmology in Naruto. So, I mean, I guess they've already done dimension hopping in Planet, which is kind of like planet hopping in the Kaguya fight, but still.
Yeah, I do think how it's interesting where it's like, yeah, they're, like you said, dimension hopping, but it's like they don't know where they are. So it's sort of like, I guess it raising the stakes in that way, but it's not necessarily the same thing as like, you know, like going to the moon or wherever, where it's like, you know, we're completely like branching out the scale of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm also just like looking at some of the you know, pages in this fight, and yeah, like I you mentioned like people. How did you say it? That like some people don't think that the fights are as tactical or whatever in Boruto?
That might mean more of a like a late Naruto complaint, but even there I don't see it, honestly. And it's still very like it's very like here it's even more, you know, it's just as like it's still a thing, you know.
Yeah,
so I just
like,
don't know how people are talking about.
Because I'm noticing in this fight, you know, like there's a gradual progression where it's like they're kind of revealing Jigen's abilities, and like, you know, he shrinks himself and they fire a jutsu at him. And like, oh, it turns out he can't absorb jutsu and move at the same time, and so then he kind of does his like space-time manipulation thing, and yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a progression in the fight that you know, like it's like going through it the first time, I maybe don't think about it that much, but going back and like paying a little more attention to it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's definitely a sense of progression here.
And I also like all the, like, I mean, seeing, you know, there's the page with, where Naruto and Sasuke go Susanoo and Kurama, and they're just fucking huge, and it's like, let's go!
Yeah.
And even, you know, there's also just, like, a lot of, like, you know, they have this level of teamwork because of their understanding of each other, that, you know, they're just able to, like, without words or planning, just do, like, Sasuke will switch, and, you know, it'll be, like they're, like when Sasuke switches with Jigen, and Naruto's already, like, ready to fucking get on Jigen, right? Like, they, you know, they just, they're so cool.
Yeah. God, I'm gonna miss that ability. It's so cool.
Yeah. But anyway, I will point out, because, like, yeah, Jigen doesn't look wounded, but he does mention how he's, like, reaching his limit, basically, and they do establish later how, you know, he's on a time limit because he's not in a fitting vessel, so, you know, but yeah, Sasuke ends up, teleports himself to Sakura, you know, and Naruto gets sealed away, for the time being. But yeah, then there's also, I guess initially it might seem weird, but, you know, because, like, Jigen starts crying, and, Isshiki calls him a weak, unfitting vessel, because, you know, he's still got some of his God damn, I didn't even think about how fucking horrifying it might suck to be Jigen, who's just, like, been watching this fucking monster puppet his body for God knows how long. So, yeah, unfortunate. Oh god, and the way Kawaki finds out about Naruto being sealed away, where his arm just falls off and the picture breaks, is, good. Oh yeah, then Shikamaru comes in, and yeah, he's definitely like interesting this arc because he is we've known him from the series, but like here he's not. I wouldn't say he's antagonistic, but he's definitely butting heads with them, right? Where it's like he doesn't trust Kawaki, and he has reasons not to. And like they put a fucking seal over the house. So anyway, we get a little bit of Jigen back with Amado talking about the ripening of the Otsutsukis. Oh yeah, so then there's a bit more talk at the house. And once Kawaki, once they get Naruto's chakra extinguishers again, Kawaki is able to warp them there with help from Boruto. I do like how it is, thinking about it, is actually a pretty organic way to have, like, because we were just talking about the kids being relevant, and, the way the situation pans out is just like, yeah, there are stronger ninja that honestly would be better suited to doing the job, but they don't want the kids to actually go, and the kids are the only ones with the means to go, so, it's them being, a little anti-authority, but, like, yeah, they go on their own, to do their own thing, and they run into Boro, who, I just thought about how, like, it sure was a fight, and he even had a moment where he just gets bigger, which, as I know, is your favorite trope. I don't know, that just came to mind.
I feel like it's been a while since that's come up.
That's a good point, actually. But yeah, I'm trying to think about, like, I mean, again, I like having the teamwork, but again, I can't think of very many takeaways I had from the fight other than that. Just, it's cool to see the characters working together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought Sarada doing the Chidori was cool. That was definitely another one of those moments where I'm like, let's go.
I also, like, I'm just noticing where they're just like, like Mitsuki's talking about how, like, we're just gonna obey your, Captain Sarada's command, because she's wants to be the Hokage, so it makes sense that she's the leader of the team.
Yeah.
And, so she sort of, manages them and figures out the plan, and it's neat.
I'm also just, I just kind of had a moment where I'm realizing, like, with legacy being a big thing in this arc, how, like, Sarada is able to do the Chidori for the first time, Kawaki is able to do the Shadow Clones, like, so kind of some of these abilities sort of getting passed down. I feel like Boruto probably has a moment like that, but I can't think of what it would be specifically.
Yeah, because, I mean, he already uses the Rasengan, and so, like, he already uses some of Naruto's stuff, if that makes sense. And you also made me think of how Mitsuki, like, like, there's a part of the fight where he literally comes up with the, he takes the blood and uses that, like, he's doing science stuff, like Orochimaru.
Yeah, like Orochimaru,
right? So,
you're right. Shit.
So yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And I guess you also just continue to have the furthered idea from the just the I guess most of the manga up to this point with like ninja, because even the tuning exams focuses on like the ninja tools as like external power versus internal power, where Boro, being this scientific ninja tool person like Delta and Kawaki, he has this, because he has his healing device, right? And once it's gone, he's not as effective anymore, right? So like he's relying on this outside source of power, I guess, if that makes sense. Just like Boruto is doing as a flaw in the tuning exams. So
yeah,
just keeping up with that. But yeah, I'm like, oh, that's right. I was trying to remember how they beat him, because like I was even just thinking about like as far as the scale of things, like Boro's one of the strong. Like we just saw Delta fight Naruto earlier, and she was strong enough to go toe to toe with him, even if she was ultimately outmatched. So like here you have four of them. And Kawaki is pretty strong. And I was like thinking, wait, how did they defeat Boro again? It's like, oh yeah, Momoshiki took over Boruto's body. So he basically does the equivalent of going, like X number tails that Naruto would do, and just absolutely just destroys Boro. Like literally turns him into fucking nothing with a Rasengan, a fucking huge Rasengan. So yeah, that I forgot about that. For a second I thought it was a popularity poll, but it was just the summary thing. But never mind.
Yeah, that I think happened twice, and I also thought it was a popularity poll, and it's like, oh, that's not what that is.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I get to talk about another anime thing. So they get Naruto to a hospital. Meanwhile, while Kashin Koji's going to take care of the Jigen problem. And Sumire's there. who, like, you said you watched like 12 episodes, so you didn't quite finish the first arc of the
no,
anime?
I know that I'm missing a lot of context with her.
Gotcha. Well, it's. I mean, I feel like you have enough. Or did you? I don't know. I feel like you should at 12 episodes you should have enough to know that something's fucking off with her.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you know she's evolved at all, like you know that something's up. Yeah. So I just wanted to point out one thing that the anime added that I thought was really nice was basically Sumire and Kawaki just have a fucking conversation where they sort of like, because Sumire is sort of further along in her character, in the same kind of character arc that Kawaki is, because Sumire's whole deal was that her dad was a former member of Root, and he was sort of using his child as a tool, a shinobi tool, against the current like administration, basically, and that was her whole thing. And in her arc, which was the first arc of Naruto, and so like at this point in the story, like she's come a long way, moving on from that past, and so she kind of connects to Kawaki in a way, and they talk about that, and they're and it's they just have a good conversation, so it's just I thought I liked it.
Yeah, that sounds
I guess
cool.
like. Yeah, I was just thinking about how it's like, because I'm thinking about it, like, I guess she's here because she's connected to the science stuff in the manga, but, I almost feel like she's here in the manga because she was, like, her being there in the anime is more important for the anime.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, but yeah. So anyway,
I also kind of wondered,
Gone.
if there's anything, like, thematically to take away from, like, her offering the painkiller, and Kawaki's like, no, keep that away from me. Like, I don't want to dull my senses. My body's not made to die so easily. Like, I don't know. I could be, grabbing at nothing, but...
I mean, my stance on that is, like, that line's there for a reason, even if it's just, like, for characterization or thematics or something. Like, yeah, Kawaki is willing to bear this pain, for whatever reason. So I'd have to think about that more, or
like,
not,
I wonder if maybe it's, because, like, how at the start of the arc, he's sort of like, no, it's not a miracle that I survived. I wish I had died. And now he's kind of like living with the pain and like trying to move forward, maybe.
I've heard the line where it's like, pain reminds you that you're alive, right? So that was also a thing like in Dressrosa, right, where you have Doflamingo who he wants to be a god, so he's trying to avoid getting any, feeling any type of pain, like betrayal, where Kairos says, pain reminds me that I'm human, right? So, that's fair. So anyway, Amado knocks Delta the fuck out, and Kashin Koji sends him to the Leaf Village. Amado busts in on the Shika Cho training, and just slaps an exploding collar around Shikadai for a hostage situation. Did you have any thoughts on Amado? Because I kind of like him. He's a piece of shit, but I like him.
Wasn't entirely sure how I felt about, like, I can't imagine what this must be like in the anime, like how many episodes he must spend just expositing information. It's like, I don't know how else they would have conveyed that in like a show don't tell thing. It's just, there's so much information that he just dishes out, and like fights are happening, and they're like, explain, Amado, and it's like a few little moments of that, and it's like, I feel like he's fine. It's just, it feels like a lot of his character was explaining things, and
that's fair. I mean, he's also just like, I don't know, I guess I'm thinking about it, he's a little like Shikamaru in a way, where he's like intelligent but also not very trusting. He's just on the opposite side, like the way he like he literally has to strong arm his way into getting what he wants, and he gets what he fucking wants.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, like, when you put it that way, I feel like he definitely could work as like, being sort of the contrast to Shikamaru in this arc.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and the fact that he's
also,
specifically
gets paired up with him and has like a conflict, and there's probably more that I'm not getting, but you talked me into it.
Talk no jutsu, let's go. But yeah, like, especially the way that, like, because, Shikadai is basically a hostage, and Shikamaru, who, again, he's normally, like, very intelligent and rational, is letting the emotions get the better of him, so, like, I don't know, and also, like, Amado is this genius, like, who's, because I think, I forget the scientist guy's name, the dorky one, who is, in charge of the Leaf's science department, like,
he
recognizes it, like, but Amado is basically like, he's the guy who's, obviously he's not alone. Like, he's, Jigen probably has some fucking space bullshit knowledge or whatever, but Amado's the guy making like the most advanced science in the world right now, So, I don't know, him being this guy, I don't know. I'm interested in him, if that makes sense, of just him being like, and there isn't much more I've gotten of him in the anime, but he's still around, so that's interesting. And yeah, at the end of the day, I guess maybe it is because he's being this sort of like weird ally, but just like, because when he's like, oh yeah, the color on Shikadai is fake, I gotcha. And it's like, you motherfucker. But yeah, there is a lot of exposition, and I don't really remember well enough of how it was handled in the anime, which might be a good thing, because that means it wasn't like horrendously dry or boring or awkward, like that it stuck out to me as a negative. So, because it was a little strange when it's like part of the fight happens, and then Amado like sits down for 20 minutes and explains what the fuck's going on, and it's like, okay, let's go back to the fight, right? Like, it's like, I don't know. Especially, I think it's a little weird because the fight's supposed to be happening in real time, or if they were watching a video feed and they paused it and talked about it, that'd be a little less weird. So I just had that thought while it was coming up. So it's like, yeah, that's a little, yeah.
And yeah, there's like a lot of misunderstandings that happen during it as well, because it's like the whole situation's complicated. Let me finish explaining.
So yeah, Kashin Koji faces down with Jiren or Jigen.
Jiren. We've talked too much about Dragon Ball Super.
Well, I also, every time I say Jigen, my brain goes somewhere. Sometimes I go Jigen Daisuke, which is like the Lupin the Third character. Yeah. And so yeah, we get a bunch of lore drops on the Otsutsukis, which, I think, like, it very much fits Boruto. Like, they're very good as Boruto antagonists, because, like, the way they sort of corrupt the, passing of the torch angle, like, they're basically like Orochimaru in a sense, but expanded on, and, given more weight. So, the way that they, literally drain the lives of planets so that they're, and take over other beings, the bodies, through the karma, to evolve themselves, just like Orochimaru. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. And yeah, while that's happening, we get the Kashin Koji fighting Jigen.
Yeah, I definitely took note of Kashin Koji being like, I am a ninja, I'm a tool type thing, but even by the end of the fight, it's still kind of like, there was a little line from Jigen, something about like, flaws of humanity or whatever, and how like he wasn't able to win the fight.
Yeah, no, I kind of brought that up earlier, because I guess just the genes and blood thing, which Kashin Koji, yeah, I guess that kind of factors into, like you were talking about with the Boro fight, where you have the kids who are all like kind of like their not necessarily blood parents even, like, which I think is big with Kawaki, where it's like, he's mostly taking from Naruto, who isn't someone who's related to him, so I guess he kind of goes against Jigen's things, where the other characters are maybe like, lending some support. But also, I guess, like, the other thing is that, I guess the difference is that Kashin Koji is a lot like Jiraiya, but he's never actually met Jiraiya. Like, it's not like he was Jiraiya's son or anything. He just happens to be really good at these jutsu, and even share some personality with him,
yeah, so I'm sure it works, and how it connects to the legacy theme. I'm realizing now that it's sort of like the legacy of Jiraiya factoring in. I don't know if it's like my favorite example of how legacy is implemented in this arc, but at the very least, like, I realize it's not out of place. Yeah, like, it's not nothing.
Yeah, and I guess they also, like, because one thing I'm noting is how, like, because, there's Jigen's, his power to absorb jutsu or chakra. And that, like, they talk about how, he specifically, like, his powers specifically work to counter Jigen's abilities, because he can summon real flames that he can't absorb, and then also he can summon a volume that, like, he can't just shrink down either, as we see. So
yeah, I really like the limitation to the karma that it can't absorb physical matter, and I like how that gets used in some of the fights, like, with the real flames here. And it's like, even when he tries to extinguish the flames, it's like, if he just keeps summoning them, then eventually it'll just whittle away at him. And then, of course, in the big fight, there are a couple of moments like, Sasuke throwing his sword, and it's like, why can't I
Yes.
why can't I strength this? And it's Boruto, which that I also kind of popped off for, because it was like a callback to Land of Waves with Naruto and the giant shuriken.
I think that's the first time Naruto and Sasuke really teamed up too, where it's like so him doing that with Boruto is I felt the same way, where it's really cool.
Like, I feel like Boruto is very good at like homaging Naruto in very cool ways, or doing callbacks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if homage is necessarily the word, because it's literally the same franchise, but
no, I do. I mean, I agree in that, like, I think Boruto, like, I definitely don't like it as much as Naruto at this point, and I don't think that's ever going to change, just because, like, of how phenomenal the story Naruto is, but I still really like Boruto, and I think, like, as far as, like, next generation sequels go, I struggle to think of ones that I think are better, or, I mean, okay, I also haven't really encountered that many, but, like, it's really, it's good, okay? Boruto's good. That's an uncommon take, so I have to say it loud, sorry.
Yeah, like, I even put out my tweet and got a reply of, like that's a hot take.
Yeah, so...
do I need to make why do people hate Boruto part 2? But it's, like, actually a good video this time.
Oh, man. I still want to do, I think I mentioned it before, but I wanted it, well, I guess it's technically my top 6 arcs in Boruto, where I just, like, talk about the arcs that I like and why I think they're good.
Yeah.
So, but it's probably gonna be a long video. I think I already drafted some of it, and it was, like, already have, like, several thousand words long, and I only talk about, like, 2 arcs, maybe 3, so, oops. But yeah, I'll find the time eventually, hopefully. I have other videos to make, too, that I've been talking about, so, we'll see. But anyway, Jigen is killed, and Otsutsuki Isshiki, it revives fully in his incomplete vessel. And the way Amado frames it is, they're basically trying to kill a god, which is cool. And as far as the rest of the fight goes, all I can think to mention is that, like, I don't think he died. I think he just escaped, and I don't remember if it was brought up what his deal is. So, and then after the fight, we get Boruto wants to go fight too, and Sasuke brings up is like, "Are you willing to die for the village?" The sort of self-sacrifice angle that I brought up earlier. And the way Isshiki appears above the village, like, is reminiscent of the pain. I definitely had that vibe of just oh shit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He doesn't go as hard into fucking over Konoha, but like, he's still, like, because he also goes down and questions people as far as, like, where the fuck is the thing I'm looking for, which actually I think it was Naruto last time too. Well, no, he's looking for Kawaki, but Naruto's with Kawaki, so that's why I got confused.
There's something about, like, his attitude and the way he talks to, like, random civilians that I kind of liked, where he goes up to the guy and he's like, "I don't know, they don't tell us that." And he's like, "Well, thank you for not wasting your time or mine. Can you just point me in the direction of..." So, like, he wasn't gonna just, like, "I'm gonna kill you." Like, he has his priorities, and he, like, if you're not in his way, he'll let you go. But it's like, it's still the whole thing with the chakra fruit of, like, everyone's gonna die eventually anyway.
Exactly.
So why do I have to waste my time
matter,
taking out
right?
these flies,
Exactly. To him, like, they're all the same. They're just, chakra sources to be absorbed later. So why bother?
And I also wonder if there's maybe something to take away from, there's, like, a line of dialogue where Naruto's like, "Well, did you tell Kashin Koji that he's not going to be able to defeat Jigen? Because it looked like he was fighting thinking he could win." And maybe that tying back into the whole, like, humanity versus, like, ninjas as tools type thing, where it's like maybe Kashin Koji didn't win the fight because it's, like, something about, like, trying to be a tool, but it's like humans aren't tools type thing. I'm not sure.
It might have been his, like, flaw where, like, because I think Jiraiya was very much of, wasn't he the one who was he the one, because wasn't he the one who taught Naruto the meaning of shinobi as endurance? So that might have been, like, part of, like, why Koji lost, thematically, in that, he was fighting for a belief that, doesn't match, who he was.
So it's, so maybe it's, like, on surface level, he's inheriting Jiraiya's legacy, but it's more just like the powers and the abilities and the visuals, and not so much like the heart of Jiraiya.
Right, because in his heart, he's saying, what Haku and like the ninja tools, right? Like he's going by those beliefs instead. Yeah, that's
I'm like over the course of this podcast now. I'm like, okay, I like this character now. Hold on.
Well, oh yeah, this guy, he's just here for fan service to Naruto fans.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, Kashin Koji good actually? That's funny. But well, even what I was just thinking, like the fact that he's still alive because he was made as the silver bullet against Isshiki, he now has no purpose. Like Isshiki is gone. Like this motherfucker has to find out what to do with himself, and that's like I think fundamental. Like I found like at its core, I find that interesting of just like that finding one's own purpose.
Yeah,
after their initial purpose is gone.
Yeah, like if this character does come back, that'd definitely be an interesting thing to explore because it's like, yeah, he was so committed to being a tool, but then with that purpose gone, it's like, well, shit. Now what?
Right, so yeah, no, I'm I hadn't thought. Fuck, yeah, I like Kashin Koji more now too. And I also find it strange how I can't not say his full name. Like it feels weird to just call him Kashin or Koji. Like he's Kashin Koji. Like his name just feels right. I don't know, something about it. I don't know.
Yeah. And of course, Isshiki pulling out his fucking wine glass from his pocket dimension.
He's just got a vibe to him where he's just like, he just doesn't give a fuck, I guess. I don't know. And yeah, you also have like, because Boruto is afraid that, Momoshiki's going to consume him and he's going to hurt the people he cares about. And Sasuke's like, you know what? I'm prepared as a teacher, to stop you if that's what I have to do. And, sort of helping Boruto get the courage to go out and fight as he, because, he's able to contribute immediately. So, he puts on the headband. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get Naruto and Sasuke and Boruto versus Isshiki. Kawaki sort of talks to them about how, the plan isn't to necessarily beat Isshiki. It's to just he's on a time limit. And as long as they wear out the time limit, everything will be good. Right. And then they find out that, because I guess Jigen's whole thing is that, like, he's on this time limit, but he's also still thinking of, like, the bigger picture because, like, he needs, because the original plan, as I understand it, was that, he was going to sacrifice, like, Jigen to the Ten Tails so that then, he would die and then, what's it called? Like, then he'd revive in Kawaki and then, so then he'd exist and the Ten Tails would be matured, basically. So, but then since now, now that, Jigen's dead, they need he needs Boruto as a sacrifice, basically.
Mm-hmm. I also just realized on that talking point of like inheriting legacy earlier, I realized that this is Boruto's moment when he turns into the sword and then works that way because he's literally calling back to a thing that Naruto did, and it's like, yeah, it's not like a Chidori or a Shadow Clones where it's not like a technique necessarily, but it's still harkening back to the previous generation, and it's cool.
Yeah, you're right. I know, because we talked about how it was a cool callback, but no, it's also meaningful. So yeah, there you go. Nice.
Another podcast where we go into it, and I'm gonna come out liking the reading more than actually reading it.
No, I definitely think. Well, because I feel like, because I especially feel it with weekly stuff that I read, because I read it, I engage with it for about 5 minutes, and then I don't think about it for fucking a whole ass week, right?
Yeah.
Where here, this way, we read it and we engage with it on some level for sure. I'm taking notes, but talking about it and forcing ourselves to engage with it, is you keep bringing up stuff that's making me think of it more, and then I'm having my observations, and we're bouncing off of each other. That's why it's cool. But yeah, and also the sacrifice thing that's been mentioned, because I brought it up and how it works into another arc that happened before here in the anime, because Boruto is prepared to sacrifice himself so that, because if Jigen's plan fails, then, even if he lives through Kawaki, it's still over, for him, basically. But yeah, then, Naruto and Kurama discuss, how they can potentially, deal with it, and, Naruto, he does the sacrifice that, Boruto's also, threatening to, that was, he's willing to die for the village, and he puts his money, where his mouth is, and, he uses the Baryon mode, which is, It's not my favorite Naruto design, but it's still,
yeah,
it's
that's
cool.
fair.
It's cool, and he beats the shit out of Isshiki. So it is kind of cool seeing Naruto, like, because he is just like the strongest ninja pretty much, and so this guy who was giving him trouble, he just fucking beats the lifespan out of this motherfucker.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like I like how it's sort of a dual effect where it's like, yeah, it drains on his lifespan, but also the reverse is true where like it takes away from his opponent. And yeah, like as far as like new power-up forms and stuff go, I thought that this one was still like, yeah, like you said, even if the design isn't the best, I still think it has a really cool like utility. And I was also just thinking that like, with the whole thing of like Isshiki having to like reincarnate into people and the whole thing of like inherited legacy, like I guess the real thematic difference between Isshiki and the protagonist is that Isshiki is trying to force his he's trying to like force his will on people, and like like Kawaki and all these other people like don't really, in Jigen, like he just took him over. These people don't want to reincarnate as him. They don't want to serve his purpose. Whereas like with the protagonist, it's like, yeah, they are doing this all to better themselves and like, of their own volition, like wanting to learn these abilities and inherit this legacy. And then, at the end of the arc, when you have Code, he's the one person who does want to be the vessel. And so like, even though Isshiki fades away, it's still like he's a new character and a new antagonist going forward, but he's like inheriting the legacy of Isshiki, and that's a lot more interesting. And as well as it's like finally on the antagonist side of things, it's like the inherited legacy is actually doing something as opposed to trying to force it on people.
Right. And what you just made me realize is also, because we were talking about Kashin Koji and how he has this like sort of this body element where he's he has elements of Jiraiya's personality in that he wants to fight beyond who he is, and he has this affinity for his abilities, but it sort of it's at odds with his actual mindset of like, I'm a ninja tool, right? We also have like what Isshiki is trying to, like, because Isshiki and Naruto, they're both fading away, like both of their lives are going away, which makes me think of like, okay, what are they leaving behind? Like Ishiki's trying to force him, he doesn't want to leave anything behind, he wants to live, right? He's forcing himself onto other characters, like Kawaki in particular, where Naruto, even if he dies, that which he's protecting is still like Boruto and Kawaki in the Leaf Village. It's all still going to be there, right? So there's this sort of difference in like, Isshiki is trying to hold on to his physical form, his, like, which is, what Kashin Koji was embodied, and what he, in his line too about, body as and genes as fate, where Naruto is willing to let himself die so that his spirit, so that his ideals can live on.
Yeah, they didn't mention it outright, but it really is like the whole Will of Fire thing from the original series.
I actually had that thought back when like Shikamaru was getting so fucking angry over Shikadai and possibly losing his son because Asuma was the one who taught him the Will of Fire, and his own legacy, his own child being snuffed out because of this fucking crazy scientist man. Like of course he'd get pissed off, right? So but yeah, it is very much like the Will of Fire, for sure.
Don't you think you're being a little too positive about Boruto?
No. Be more positive. Watch the anime, Mathwiz, so we can gush about it. But yeah, so Naruto ultimately isn't quite able to, match up to Isshiki, and he brings in Kawaki. And I really like the way Kawaki like resolves the conflict.
Yes.
Where through the smoke bomb, Isshiki, like, because Isshiki, he threatens Naruto's life. He goes after what Kawaki cares about more so than his own life and his own, well-being. So he uses ninjutsu. He uses what he learned from Naruto, and he sends a shadow clone out. And so, you can't put a karma on a shadow clone.
Yeah, like the second he showed up and I'm like, oh my god, please be a shadow clone, and then it happened and I'm like, let's go. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and then he gets to watch Isshiki just fucking disintegrate, and he's like, yeah, there you go. Now you can sleep.
Yeah, and he fucking stomps on him at the end.
Yeah, very good.
And yeah, it's like really, he went from like wanting to use the shadow clones as like a form of self-harm and like beating himself up, but here he uses it and like, and also, calling back to like he would rather suffer himself than lose Naruto, but here he kind of takes more on Naruto's will and like what Naruto wants, and moves forward in that way, and so uses the shadow clones in a positive way and not in like a self-destructive way.
Yeah, it's very good.
But God, also just like the brutality of when Boruto's like, I'll kill myself, like don't think I won't, and then Isshiki's like, all right, I'll just break your bones, and like breaks his arm, like crushes his back. It's
yeah, which of course causes Momoshiki to come in and take out Sasuke's eye, and just like, oh, you thought the conflict was over? No,
yeah,
sir.
That panel also got me, where I'm like, shit. And that was also where I kind of had a thought. I don't think I'm right. I don't think that's actually what it is, because I went back and looked at like the first chapter just to like see what they say. And, because how like the flash forward, you see like Kawaki and Boruto fighting. And then, seeing the whole thing with Momoshiki here, I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting if Boruto was actually like the antagonist in that conflict? But like with how it's presented, we assume that Boruto, because he's Naruto's son and he's the protagonist. So, he's the title character. So of course he's the good guy. But it's like, getting Kawaki's whole arc here, I kind of had the thought of like, but like, what if it wasn't? What if Kawaki was secretly the protagonist? And I'm like, wouldn't that be a cool bait and switch? But I don't think that's what it is, because like in the flash forward, Boruto has all this talk of like being a ninja and like because like there's also the line about like, I'm gonna do to you what I did to Lord Seventh, which is like, it would be a big twist to have that actually be, I don't think it's gonna happen though. I think I'm really going out on a limb on that one.
No, well, I think what also interests me about that flash forward is that, like, because I don't, maybe it would be the end of Boruto, but it also might not be, and that in itself is also really interesting. In that, like, the idea of there being like more, like, that's just a flash forward, but it's like there's more after that, like how, because that, like, Konoha being fucked over like that, it seems like a big shifting point in the story, So
yeah, like I'm trying to think of some other story that does a flash forward like that, but it's kind of like the midpoint. But I can't.
The only flash forward I could think of that's like that doesn't even happen in the story, and that's Gurren Lagann, where it opens with a big flash forward that we don't even get. So but anyway, they restore Boruto's chakra, and I like how there's even the like Kawaki is like he's remembering back to Boruto calling him bro, and he's like, well, fuck, I guess I gotta save him. They're good.
I also like the cheekiness from Kurama, where he's like, I never said you would die. I just said, that death would happen. And it's
God.
Like, yeah.
So
because he's like, if you knew that I would die, you wouldn't have done it, you annoying fuck.
Kurama's so good. So I was wondering, did you get spoiled on this, or...
Spoiled on what? Kurama dying?
Kurama dying.
No, see, because, like, I know... vaguely that like I feel like the talking point of Naruto eventually dying in the series has like been theorized since the beginning, and I feel like I've seen it come up occasionally. Not like I don't like frequent spaces where this discourse happens, but every once in a while I've seen it come up like on my timeline or whatever, or like a YouTube video recommendation or something. So like I was wondering if like this would be where Naruto dies, but I like it better how it worked here. And like I made the All Might comparison where it's like losing the ability, and it is still a big loss for Naruto because like he's never lived without Kurama. So and it really is. And again, like in the power sense, like it's like All Might where he'll still be around, but his power is drastically reduced.
Right. Well, yeah. The slight difference being that All Might is basically almost useless.
Yeah. Naruto still has Sage Mode.
He's still
and
Sage
like
Mode.
that.
Yeah, for sure. He's still he's still a very capable ninja, but he's not the level he once was. Yeah. Though it is, now I think about it, like, well, Sakura's the strongest of the trio now, isn't she?
Let's go.
Let's fucking go. I hadn't thought about that before. And yeah, I just want to say, because like I linked it to you already. I really fucking like how the anime handles Kurama's death. Where it just, because, well, building up to it, you have ending 17, which has become one of my favorite anime endings, where it's just like, did you ever watch ending 17? Where,
No, I did not.
Okay, it's basically like, visually it's showing, Naruto's, like, sort of him dealing with Kurama in a sense. Like, there's one fucking cut that's so good, where we see him, painting the Hokage statues, and he just slashes this big red glob of paint on the statue. Then it cuts to Naruto standing in front of a mirror, and you can't see his face because there's just a similar, like, I don't think it's blood in, like, diegetically, but it looks like something over the mirror, and he punches the mirror, which is like, you know, like his own hatred on himself, basically, like not fighting a shadow clone, but the same kind of idea. So like it's just a like good opening in that way, and it also like it opens with him looking at the fourth Hokage statue on the rock face, and then it ends with him looking at it, seeing himself on the so it's just but then there's a part in that ending where like Naruto's got his fist in the air, and then he starts like reaching out for something, and then how they do it in the anime, in the clip that I linked to you, is they start playing the ending theme, and instead of the normal visuals, they basically do a montage of like Naruto from birth to, and all of his moments with Kurama, like the, you know, his stare downs, and eventually coming, you know, and doing his fist bump with him, you know, as they team up, and then they do that same cut from the ending of him, because he was fist bumping with Kurama in the anime, and then Kurama's fist faded away, so he starts reaching for him, and it's just done so well, and I fucking lose it every time. It's so good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a watch.
So yeah, it's just like, so like that, reading it, like, you know, I just couldn't separate myself from the anime, and I don't think I ever will be able to. Like, I did not rewatch that scene before reading the manga, but it's still just, it's like so good.
Yeah.
But and then of course the way it cuts to like that's still here in the manga with Naruto reaching out and Boruto grabbing his hand, you know. You know, since like what's gone is gone, but you know, he still has Boruto, of course, like, you know, and God. But then so then we cut to, like you mentioned, Code, who's, you know, willingly wanting to carry on Isshiki's legacy, basically. Though of course he also has his own desire, because, like, you know, he specifically wants to kill the people who, you know, took down Isshiki as well, which probably isn't going to go well for him, you know, just a thought, just a suggestion, a theory, if you will. But yeah, also, like, Boruto and Kawaki, you know, vow to, they're going to get rid of the karmas, because, or Boruto's karma, just because, like, you know, they don't want these fuckers, Otsutsuki's, you know, lingering around. So, yeah. And I like the little exchange they have where, you know, Boruto's like, I feel like anything's possible, you know, with you. And, you know, Kawaki's just like, just hurry up and stand on your own. And they're just like, they're good. I like them. Boruto and Kawaki are bros. And, yep. And that's, you know, then with Code saying he's going to eliminate Boruto and everybody, that's where the reading ends. So yeah, I definitely came to like it more than I remembered, from the reading for sure. And I'm definitely curious as to if I were to rewatch it in the anime, like how much because I feel like I understand it in ways I did not get out of the anime, even though I'm sure like a lot of this stuff is there as well. So yeah, good arc.
Yeah, I would agree. I think probably my favorite arc in Boruto to this point.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I don't remember the other ones too well. I remember really liking the tuning exams and kind of everything that was going on there. But yeah, I feel like, you know, Kawaki is such a strong character and such a good addition to the story. And, you know, like having this discussion
so much.
And realizing like how like the legacy stuff and the whole like tools and humanity and just, yeah, like Boruto bringing these ideas in from Naruto and continuing to build on them, but then also kind of having its own things going on. And it's like, even if the legacy stuff still kind of can tie back to the Will of Fire, so it's not like a complete departure, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's all implemented in really interesting ways. And like, you know, even the stuff that I was nitpicking, some of it I came around on. So, you know, like, yeah, it's good. Boruto good.
No, yeah, and I'll say, like, because, I mean, this, you know, I mean, so yeah, it's your favorite arc from the manga, which I totally agree with, just because, like, I think my stance going into the last reading was that, like, I like the Chunin exams, and I like the Scarlet Spring, but, like, all the other arcs, even in the anime, they're still in my, like, the, Owl arc, or the Mujina Bandits, like, they're in my lower half of arcs, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't really, even manga or anime, I don't really care for them, so, like, Kawaki arc is really good. It's still my favorite arc in the anime as well. So, but it's yeah, of course it's my favorite arc in the manga. It's just so good. So yeah. Anyway,
am I gonna make a Boruto video now? I feel like I have to.
Go.
I've got other things I need to do first.
I know. You're almost there, Mathwiz. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Wait, no, don't go to the light. All right, so next time we are reading Toriko, a whole ass other series that is not Boruto. Actually, yeah, this is this is the first new series we've touched since Saint Seiya, I think, and that was over a year ago. So obviously, episode wise, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we're reading chapters 1 through 54, which is the Regal Mammoth, and I think another arc that I forget. Century Soup, was that? Or was that? No, that's the next one. Never mind. There was another Jewel. I don't. It's been a long time. Okay, I'm not gonna try and remember arc names off the top of my head, but I named the episode Regal Mammoth because that's the second arc. That, and Shounen. There's usually a lot of smaller arcs before you get into the bigger stuff. That's how it goes. Whatever. I just named after one of them. Leave me alone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel like knowing the manga that we're reading, I already know what my what my bit is gonna be for going through the series.
Toriko. Why Toriko? No, well, maybe it was that.
I just hope you're ready for me to trash the author every episode.
I mean, go for it. Like, I can separate the author being a shitty person from whatever interesting things I take out of Toriko.
Yeah, I think I can do that too, but it's still like, this is the first time we're going to be covering something where it's like, it'd be different if we had covered something and then more information came out after the fact, but this is like going in, and for the record, it's like, I'm not going to be officially supporting the series. I have no interest in that. And if we ever get to Kenshin or anything like that, it's going to be the same way. I still think that there are ideas, like you said, separating art from the artist. I think there's going to be things to potentially take away. And it's like, some of these series probably have an influence on, future stuff that would come out in the magazine, regardless of, the quality of the person writing it. So, feel like, I'll probably say a lot of this again at the start of the next episode.
No, I was about to add some of my points, but I'm like, we're gonna have a 30-minute conversation at the start of the Toriko episode about separating the art from the author. Yeah. Like, so why bring it up now? So yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.